Hello and welcome. I'm so excited that you're here and you're watching with us. Today, we've got a really fun episode planned for you. And I'm not going to do it alone either. It is so cool to tell you who else has come to join us is Charlie. Yay!
Ah!
Proof of life. And of course, the amazing, fantastic Laura. Woo!
Hello.
Straight from another country. And you know him. I love him. My technical producer and family. Tom. Yay!
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget Prince Roy.
He's literally right there.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
He's like, I am so close, and yet you are not giving me your sole attention.
Mm-hmm.
How dare.
when I was recording the video earlier today, Sasha was right here next to me. And every time the camera was not on, he came up close and nudged into my cheek. And every time I reached to turn the camera on, she went back over and sat down on the chair. She knows. You cannot tell me this dog does not know how cameras work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, we've got a great episode for today where we talk to writers about how to make bonus content. I know that most writers probably have a general idea of bonus content they themselves have encountered and they liked intended for readers. But I'm willing to bet that's not all the bonus content other writers have ever come up with. And we've tried really hard to canvas what is all the forms of bonus content that at least is reasonably easy to make. There's some bonus content that I'm like, hard pass. Like a bronze statue that your readers can come visit in your hometown. No, you know what? That's advanced level, and I'm too tired for that. No, I'm sorry. Hard pass. But the easier stuff you can do yourself as a writer, you don't need a degree in sculpture to do. You don't need financiers to make a special man-made island out. You know what? But this is real stuff, by the way. You would not believe. So anyway, here we are.
Who got the man-made island made for them?
Oh, this was a while ago. Give me a little while and the name will come to me. I just remember going, oh, Dubai financing. Let you know you have too much money. Okay.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, but it had to. I didn't even think the story was that good. So, my point merely being that part of making a lot of bonus content is, number one, it's a great way to procrastinate working on your story. And who doesn't want constructive forms of procrastination? I know I like it. I like to tell myself that I'm being busy and useful when in fact it is in no way leading to the story being written. And on top of that, it's not only a great way to procrastinate, but in many ways, it is a wonderful way to actually work on the backstories of your story, which may better inform your story. So it can be something that's useful for writers, and it may be something that you end up doing to start with, like really getting to know the backstory and your characters, working on fleshing out your world building a little bit more, not so much that it takes you 3 years and you haven't written one word of the actual story because you've been busy world building in a world no one else has any reason to care about.
World builder's disease.
It's a problem.
I do love Janet's diagnostic for this.
Yeah.
If you have an article, if you have written notes on elvish shoes, and they do not play an important role in your story, you're not like writing the elf Cinderella or something where it's actually integral to the plot. When you find yourself discussing what are the soles of the shoes made out, exactly how are they doing the laces, do they have special knots for this, you have the disease. You have fully contracted world builder's disease, and you must stop. Stop. Step back. Ask yourself, why do I have elvish shoes? Why is this a thing? Why have I gotten here? And redouble your efforts to get back out.
I concur. Like, I feel like that is a bridge too far. Unless, yeah, your story is somehow the shoe industry is integral to your story.
Writing the fantasy version of Kinky Boots or something.
Right,
You
something.
might mention it in a scene when they put their shoes on.
Or, like I actually heard someone do a modern, well, not modern, about 100 years ago type story of, the shoemaker and the elves in Spain. It was weird and fascinating.
Yeah, the first time I encountered the idea of this kind of bonus content was when I read Rework by Jason Fried and what was his name? Mark Hansen? I always get his first name wrong. David Hansen. And they're not quite as kind about it in the way that they discuss this. I believe the actual name of the chapter is How to Reuse Your Trash. And they're not wrong. It's basically all of the little notes that you make, how to turn that into blogs, vlogs, and podcasts to get people interested and excited about what you're doing. And that was the first time that I really started thinking about all of this other extraneous thing that I do is something that people might be interested in that I might be able to put out into the world.
I was of the very few fiction stories I wrote as a teenager. My mother was my only distributor. She would entice coworkers to read them. She would distribute them among grad students at Ole Miss, where she worked. This was what she did. And then she would come back with reader questions. And what was interesting to me was often what I had cut out were, in fact, a few people might have that question. So I liked it that I already had the answer to whatever that question was. Like, well, how did the killer get in the house in the first place? I had edited that out of how he had sneaked in through a back door that had a, shaky old lock that didn't, like, if you shook it enough, it would essentially pop the lock. I had taken that out because I felt like an interrupted flow. And also it was just better for him to just pop out of a closet rather than we see it from his point of view, because I really just wanted to keep it with my main character's point of view. This was the Amanda Huggins story. And don't at me about that name. I was 15. And people were like, but how? And so it was like, well, I have an immediate answer. And so my mother would very carefully write this down like a reporter in her steno pad, and then go back to report to inquiring grad students and professors and national acoustic scientists about how did the killer get in the house. And the answer was, it was a bad backdoor lock. Go check your locks. So, and they were all very happy, satisfied, but it occurred to me that is bonus content.
Yeah.
So having those answers, because it's part of what you've already cut out of the content, can be useful and still gets that idea to the reader of, oh, I knew what I was doing. I just didn't want to clutter your story up with the details. Nia would like to say hello to our Prince Roy.
He's finally quieting down. Oh my gosh.
He just perked up.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he heard his name from Glory.
Yes. Yeah, he heard it through your earphones. Yes. Hello to all the lovelies. Hello, Maggie. Megan is already ahead. She's like, the weather is 63 degrees out and partly sunny. And got to go take the doggies out. It is 80 degrees here. I was just looking that up.
It's already getting very rude hot.
74% humidity. And 1 mile an hour wind. So hot and muggy. That's the weather. It's hot and muggy.
Somehow it is a nice temperature out. It is 69 degrees.
Ooh.
Nice. And our humidity is quite low at the moment, which is just weird. And we have good quality air quality for today, which is
nice.
Just like, I don't know how, but
it's so nice. Yeah.
Everyone's working inside.
Yep. That's why because it's Monday, everybody's working inside. Hello, Kat and Carrie, and hello, Spence. Hello, CB. It is nice to see you, Nia. Let's see. Yep. Nia noticed he perked his little head up as soon as he heard me say Prince Roy. He knows his name. You could have built it in the story by having her forget her key and popping the lock herself earlier and thinking, nah, it's fine. In my defense, I was 15 and I never actually intended to continue writing in this world because it was very scary for me. I was scaring the pants off of myself writing these stories. And it was just a little too much for my adrenal glands back then. However, I have not forgotten the Amanda Hug and Kiss stories. So you may one day get Amanda Hug and Kiss adventures. No promises, but it could still happen. Nia says half the sky is sunshine, the other half very dark storm clouds. Oh, it sounds like maybe you have a storm coming or going.
So dramatic.
I kind of feel like that needs to be my new drag name, though.
Storm coming?
No, Amanda Hug and Kiss.
Oh, well, have you never heard that joke?
No, I have. I'm just like, I've been thinking about bringing a drag character onto the channel, and I was just like, but who would she be?
Amanda Hug and Kiss is what we used to call when I was a kid an S magnet. Although we didn't say S. But she attracts trouble wherever she is just by existing, and that she does not know that she is, I guess, like an avatar of some sort of god of chaos, because wherever she goes, chaos follows. Spence says, I'm in feedback mode and it's totally Megan's fault. LOL. So yeah, we may still one day see Amanda. Even when she goes on vacation, her plane gets hijacked. She is, and she complains the entire time, by the way, which was apparently the selling point for many of Mom's frequent readers of this. People would pressure Mom to then pressure me to write more Amanda Hug and Kiss adventure, which I would at the time, because Mom was like, look, they said they'll upgrade your computer if you'll just write some more of Amanda's story. And I was like, okay, well, then the DOS needs an upgrade. We had an old MS-DOS.
Oh, the DOS.
Yes. I wrote it on an MS-DOS computer with a dot matrix printer. It's come out and she's on its little track. Yeah, where if it gets off track, you have to fix it. Yep. We have the printer that went with it. A dot matrix.
I rather miss the sound of a dot matrix printer. It was a delightful, buzzy.
Some scream a lot. The more you use it, the more they scream.
Like a goat.
Yes, they scream like a goat. Because we had one at the video store for quite a while, since it was that dang guy who originally designed the software we were using, the rental software. He only ever set it up to be used with a dot matrix printer, even though, printers have evolved in the last 20 damn years. This was in 2001, by the way. And yeah, it was still using a dot matrix from the 80s. So we had to go find a dot matrix at a garage sale. Anyway, this dot matrix, after the first year or so, first 8 months, it would scream anytime you used it. If it had to print more than one page, it would scream like a goat. Like just in objection, not in pain. Just like it was offended.
Yeah.
As well as that underlying in the background. So you knew it was at least working. Yep. Megan knows. She had a DOS with one of those dot matrix printers. You never forget them. You never forget your first.
Were those the ones that used the paper that had the tearaway perforated?
Yeah, that's the tracks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's how it knew its register.
Yep.
I do miss, though, being able to print out the banners.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those were nice. And then you could color them in or not. Rather than having to tape paper together like a heathen now.
Oh man,
That paper's so old and acidic.
I remember when HP was trying to like make themselves the home publishing, like heart of the universe from when that was a thing for a brief moment in the late 90s, early 2000s, and so they started selling paper on a roll that you could feed into your printer, and it never worked. It was like the worst toilet paper roll ever. That always went off to one side or the other because they didn't do the quality control they needed to on the roller on the inside that grabbed the paper and pulled it through.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
fun fact, they still make paper like that for professional printing. For like photo printing. For reals. I am not making this up.
Yeah, we have a couple rolls.
Yes, that's why I know. It's like we've got some wide plotter size printers for professional poster printing. And we also have the rolls that go with them. Oh my God, they're so heavy. And you got to install it and then hope it doesn't actually tip the printer backwards. So you kind of have to secure it. So anyway, that's a whole nother. That has nothing to do with bonus content.
Well, I think the first bit of bonus content that will go unsaid if we don't say it right up from at the beginning. Most of our YouTube channels are our bonus content for our stories.
Mm-hmm.
We don't often think about it that much, but that is
especially vlogs.
Yeah.
Yes, especially our vlogs. Any content like that. Nerdy Book Nerd is one of my favorites for this because not only does Matilda on her channel talk about her writing process and whatnot, but we'll just do these wonderful tangent videos about, I had this really strange idea, and here's all of the research and all of the things that I discovered along the way in trying to figure out if this idea was a idea worth even following. And that is bonus content. And Marcus also does it as well.
And let's be perfectly honest here. Like if Amanda Hugginkiss's stories ever actually get publicly shared, then we will pull these from the live streams and then, stitch them together as all the times Glory talked about Amanda before she actually shared Amanda.
Also, and like another one most people at least know of is Neil Gaiman's Tumblr page, where people would ask him questions about his stories, and he'd then post his response so everyone could find out, in sort of a disorganized FAQ. Of again, like that was a lot of why people followed, versus we've heard problems with I can't remember which author tuber, because she talks about her YouTube is about for writing versus most people subscribe to her are interested because of her stories.
Are you talking about Jenna Morrissey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Spence. Lovely to see you.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's going to have to change in AuthorTube if we're going to want to be more professional about things. Because yes, sharing tips and tricks on how to write, craft, and edit our stories, yes, important. But we either need to have secondary channels or make it a part of our primary AuthorTube platform to actually talk about our work. Because if we're not doing that, we're not promoting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are scared that others, if they talk about their book before it's out, people will steal the idea. And so a lot of author tubers not a lot, but a few that I watch, they're like, project book. And they will say nothing about book. until it's like about to be out. And it's like, I'm not invested if it's just book.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
so 2 things on that. One, the only thing that they can really steal from you is your name. So if you have a really good book title, yeah, keep that one quiet for a while until the book comes out. Or actually sign up for a membership in the Writers Guild of America and file the paperwork to preserve that name and the concept that goes behind it, because you can use that in court to sue and send cease and desist letters. Like there are ways around that if we were more open about how writing works and how copyright works, that I think is one of the things I'm probably going to be talking about a lot today. You're going to hear me say the term copyright way more than any of us are comfortable with, including me. But I don't care if people know my weird stories, because I would love to see somebody try to write a story with murder radishes and magical furries in it. I bet you all the money that I have in my bank account, it will be nowhere near the story that I am writing, because I am a strange bird who grew up in the ball circuit in the Baltimore area. My stories are very weird and unique to me in that way because of my, point of view. That seed can be used 1,000 different ways, and honestly, I want to read those stories. And
I mean, because like to me, truly, case in point is what's his name? Palahniuk.
Chuck Palahniuk.
Yeah, the original Fight Club. He read and shared chapter by chapter that story and had them critique. Yeah, ain't no one trying to steal that story because it was very unique to his perspective in his life. No one else is like, oh yeah, I want to write a story about a Fight Club. They're like, yeah, I want to see where this goes. Also, all of your references to I am, what was it? I am
Jack's distended stomach.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All the Reader's Digest references that most people who watch the movie don't know were in the book, of like, I am Jack's this and I am Jack's that. This was a particular background in life. So yeah, no one else is going to take, even when they heard it chapter by chapter by chapter.
Also, I would just point out, okay, because we've talked about this before, I'm going to say it again. If you are watching this channel for more than 5 minutes and you are happy to continue watching us, you are more than likely neurodivergent, or you very much love someone who is neurodivergent. So if you are neurodivergent, the chances of anyone exactly getting your story idea, even if you describe it at length to them, is so tiny. So now I cannot speak for the neurotypical world, because I am not neurotypical, and apparently, like, I am antithetical to their very existence, as I've been told by them. But anyway, if you are neurodivergent, nobody's stealing your idea. Even if they try to steal your idea, which I have had people try to steal my creative ideas and then fall flat on their face because they did not have my particular creative spark of what was motivating that creative idea. So I am just here to say the likelihood of your idea, even if you describe it like Amanda Hug and Kiss. Okay, first off, Amanda Hug and Kiss is a joke that I originally first heard on The Simpsons in like the late 80s, early 90s, back when Bart used to make prank calls to Moe's Tavern. I thought it was hilarious. And being a 15-year-old girl writing this very scary serial killer kind of stalkery story of Amanda Hug and Kiss and her serial killer escape stalker, I was like, yeah, I love that name. It's hilarious. Because Amanda sounds normal, but then when you find out her last name. My other character, by the way, when I was 15, because I had a private detective character named Babe Ruth. That's right. Her father named her Babe. And I thought this was also fantastic. And then she grew up to be a detective. So, it's terrible. This was what was the height of my 15-year-old humor, okay? But again, like, look, I don't mind telling you those names because they are already essentially common names in the vernacular. I would not be able to like copyright them in that way because they are already in use. I'm happy to share other stories. I just call, like, for instance, I have one called The Forbidden Story. I do occasionally, yes, there are Nazis in it. It is called The Forbidden Story. And that's like the amount I would tell you. Why am I keeping that low kg? It is not because I'm afraid anybody go steal this idea. Nobody go steal this idea, at least not the way I'm going to tell it. It's because, frankly, it's forbidden because I'm kind of ashamed of this story. I just don't want y'all to know I'm not planning to ever publish it under my own name or any variation on my name. I specifically have a pseudonym that my mother helped me pick out when I was a teenager, and that is the pseudonym she getting published under because I am not putting my name to the forbidden story. And that's why I call it that, if forbidden. I no, tell them. I'm going to have another member of our family who is long dead tell the story. Because that is, my mom went through the family tree to find a suitable series of names for me. But anyway, it's just simply like these stories, the way we would tell them, most other people are not going to tell it that same way, even if you describe the basic premise to them. So at least for the neurodivergent community, I'm here to tell you this is not the thing you necessarily need to worry about at all. Now, if somebody actually can get a hold of your physical manuscript or go in and hack your computer or your cloud to take what you've already written, that is a different concern.
Oh, yeah, that's a very different thing.
That's a whole different problem. Again, restart your, all your your devices, your hardware, your phones, your laptops, everything at least once a week to keep them safe from hackers, from the majority of hackers. Not all hackers, obviously, but it will help with the most active type of hacking going on right now in the world, is restart all your hardware once a week. So anyway, so I'm just saying that is not the concern under like, oh, they'll steal my idea. You're neurodivergent. You're so different. Nobody's ever going to figure out what makes you special. So take this superpower and run with it.
It's also really important to not hold our stories too precious. Because a lot of what I hear when I hear people talking about, well, I can't share my story idea because it's so magically unique. One, I bet if you told your story idea to a large enough group of people, they would immediately say, I loved that when I read it in fill in the blank book, because people have been writing for thousands of years and in thousands of languages. So your story is probably out there somewhere, or a version of it.
We're all derivative. Like, there's no way we can't be now, because there's so many people have told so many stories in so many thousands of years.
And if you hold your story too precious, you won't be able to do some of the things that you need to do to be able to market it, to be
like
able
good
to
editing.
Yeah.
Or get beta readers.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have to admit, like, modernist bibliomancy is a go on. You got my attention.
I loved the draft that I read of that. I'm just saying. But yeah, because you will have to be able to cut these things up and see them for their individual parts. And eventually, if you are successful, start asking yourself the hard questions like who gets toys, which are like the kind of end goal of this entire thing when you get to a certain level of success. Like, what do I make the plushies? Which characters get to be plushies? Which ones are going to be on the bed sheets that we're selling? Because I don't know about you, but I grew up with the He-Man bed sheets and the Voltron bed sheets, and like one of these days, one of my stories will have bed sheets. Look, and it won't just be something that I put up on Redbubble. Like, a company will want to make these. But if you hold the ideas too precious, then when it comes to actually monetizing it, you won't be able to do it, because how can I sell my baby? It's not your baby, is words.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite bonus content are, I'm so nerdy, like the textbooks that go along with the books. Like, any book that is referenced in your book needs to be made. Like, I need a Necronomicon. I need a Death Note. I need Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the actual textbook. Like, yes. Give me Most Potente Potions. Like, all the textbooks, please.
Yeah, because the whole point of bonus content is your readers really enjoyed the universe you created, and they want to live there a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what all this stuff, the goal is to give them that feeling like they're back in the story they enjoyed so much.
And it helps with writing fan fiction to make it more canon.
It does.
I don't have a problem.
None whatsoever, huh?
No.
But yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring up all. You help inspire a fandom by putting this stuff out ahead. I mean, to see a true case in point, the woman, I can never remember her name, on YouTube, Asian Canadian, well, Chinese Canadian.
You've not narrowed this down like you think you have. So.
Yeah.
But the video she made about how I memed my way to the bestseller
Zirin.
list.
Isn't her name Zirin? Or excuse me, their name, because they're
Iron Widow?
non-binary.
Oh, that's right. God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, the what is it? Iron Widow,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one that just came out.
Yeah, but
Something about a boy and a dragon.
Yeah.
Of these
Was it
are
Charlie something? I can't remember the main characters. Anyway.
Yeah, but these are, but part of the, but they talk about how part of the way she got buzz was by just making these memes of, aren't you curious what kind of world this is? Don't you want to know more about it? Of again, these little side things are things other people can share.
Mm-hmm.
Your fans and future fans can share between them to make sure their views and interests align, so you can build a more solid fandom.
Yeah, like that. So that was one of the things they did, particularly after they got the Iron Widow book picked up. Was so they were then in the editing process, and they kept making memes and posting these memes about the story, even though nobody had read the story yet, other than obviously them and their editors. But people started sharing the memes because it was relatable anyway. And as they pointed out, they had learned this skill of memeing, making memes that people want to share from trying to get people into Goku? Is that?
Yeah, I think so.
Who? I can't.
Dragon Ball.
Yeah, that was like, it's not Airbender. I know that.
That's Aang.
It's just like name this.
The Airbender, the
people,
Airbender memes are all about cabbage.
So, but try to get other people into that fandom and not succeeding at all.
And foaming mouth man.
God, y'all. Anyway, that is where they had developed this skill, and then they used this skill of making memes for Iron Widow, and it actually worked to kind of build buzz in a organic way.
My computer's about to die, so I salute you.
It was nice seeing you while we had you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Roy.
So Roy's going, wait, what are y'all doing?
Like, what's happening? So, yes, Charlie.
Sorry, the two animals in the house are making all the noises they possibly can right now.
My buddy's covering up for me.
I feel like Brian's admitting to things he shouldn't be on.
Yeah, like maybe you don't need a recording of that confession.
These are known facts. It's all right.
But yeah, make sure when you're composing your story that you are, when I'm talking about not holding it precious, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. If you cannot think of a meme that would come out of your work, that either means that you're not good at memes, which is okay, or you may need to go back to the idea, because if it's not memeable, it's going to be harder to get it out there in our current climate. Like, what are the things that resonate with people? Like, are the Sarath in my epic fantasy series really magical furries? I mean, no, they're not people that are putting on costumes in that way. So depending on how you define a furry character, they are not. But that is such a funny way to think about it. And it became a meme in the stream because y'all made it into one. And it's one that I've decided to go along with because it is funny. And anytime I mention to anybody that I'm working on an epic fantasy series with magical furries and murder radishes, people are like, tell me more. Like, instantly. Because those are quick, simple, clear ideas that whether you have in your mind what I'm doing in the story or not, immediately evoke an idea. They immediately invoke an image and make people want to, yes, please tell me more. You know, having the ability to create that connection instantly with a reader is so important. And the other thing that I feel like I want to say as especially as we're still starting this out, is remember, if you're on your social media constantly sharing links, the social media sites hate you and will punish you and will demote your stuff, and people will not find you all that useful. Nobody likes the person who sits over in the corner of the room and says, have you seen my thing? My thing. Have you seen my thing? You need to be useful in some way, and you need to sell as much native content as you can to the platforms that you're on. So if you can find a way to turn your story into images, memes, or comic strips, or just text in the case of some networks, and share it natively, be it on Twitter or Instagram, they will like you better and help spread your content more.
It's true.
If all you're doing is sharing links like, hey, I have a new chapter of this out, I have a new story of this out, I have a new podcast of this out, you know, like my social media has been for a while because my brain has been trash. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You're just basically making a catalog of things that you've done.
I would say, like, I made entire, because Glory's talking about, like, there's nothing to meme about my story that she put up on what was it, Bella?
Mm-hmm.
So I made a whole bunch of memes just for her. And she's like, wait, what?
Like being a sibling, like just to prove me wrong. Such a strong motivator in siblings, right?
Yeah. Is it showing again? Or did it?
Yeah. At the rate we're going, I might finish one of the stories by the end of the week. Maybe. Hungry brownies, hungry dachshund, time for another snack break. You reach the high point of your story. Time for another snack break. Okay, so this is true. This keeps happening in my story. Is they're like, we would love to finish it, but we hungry. And then there's the dachshund. Because, you know, the brownies are only like 6.5 inches tall. There's the dachshund going, yeah, we're hungry. What you got?
Yeah.
So the storyteller's finally ready to finish after a long meal. Bathroom break. Like, I am once again asking you to finish your previous story. We are running low on snacks. Like, this is true. This is absolutely true. A good story. Let's feed them. My other stories coming in. So, because the storyteller brownie is trying to avoid finishing the main story because of how revealing the end of the story is to the two people that they're telling the story to.
Yeah. So
instead, they're like, well, let me tell you this other story first. And, you know, essentially they're stalling for time, a lot of stalling, but also a lot of hungry brownies and a dachshund.
So, like, yes, I made
you
all
and your
these
BFF
memes.
are going to save the world. You're 8 inches tall, and you only know how to tell stories. And you only know how to tell stories? Like, how's this going to work? When you finish the next episode, and yes, none of the episodes have a satisfying conclusion because it's another damn story. Finish the story. I need another snack first. Yeah, that's accurate. Don't make me tap the sign. Stories will not finish just because you expect them to. Stick with one storyline? Nah. Tell the story in multiple ways? Yes. So again, they're stalling for time, so they keep telling the same story, but with different characters in different settings, with different things happening. Storytelling for Dummies by That Darn Brownie. A reference for the rest of us. Dachshund versus Brownie? Taz. Go on. What you got? New story. The previous story. With a ghost mask on. Fall asleep during a story? We did fall asleep. New story? It's on fire. Everything's on fire. And Daz. Let's see. Dachshund finds you hiding in bushes. Dachshund after you offer her sausage. This does actually happen in the story.
But you see how...
When your separate storylines start coming together, run, MFers, run. Get fed for storytelling. New stories going way up. when the next meal is announced. It's the crab rave, y'all. New dachshund friend, your BFF, wee wee. That's wee wee, y'all. Tell a story? Ah, very nice. Tell a story and get fed? A little enlightenment. Start telling story but get fed before you finish? Ha ha! Tell another story before you finish the previous story and keep getting fed? Mind enlightened. It's a new level. What gives people feelings of power? Money, status, knowing how the story ends? Yeah, you're not going to get that. If I ride a dachshund into battle, does that make it my war wiener? Because that is one of the things is Wee Wee is trying to convince the dachshund to become their war steed. And the dachshund is open to this. I don't always enjoy eating with giant people, but when I do, they are elemental gods. What do you call a dachshund you ride into battle? Your war wiener. I'm going to save the world with my BFF. But you're a storytelling brownie. What if we finish a story before we start the next? You weren't listening! Should I add on another part? After all, what's one more story? Best I can offer is lots of stories that seem vaguely familiar. What if I told you it's all just one single story? Yeah, all right. That is actually kind of a spoiler. But not really, it's fine. Finish a story, start another story. Which one shall we do? And they lived happily ever after.
But you see how if you enjoy this humor, then you may also enjoy this story that these memes are referencing.
Then they asked if I could finish the story before lunchtime. They reached the dragon's cave. But first, let me tell you about how I met Baba Yaga. Okay, this one is a little too close to home. Tom has come for me. So I'll get gourmet meals if I just keep telling you stories. When you find out how it all fits together. Yes, I hope everybody feels that content. So the Goblin King tries to invade, but they already left. So I'll get gourmet meals if I just keep telling you stories. It's like different memes you can use for the exact same content.
You don't know which one you feel like will work best. So again, when you're being creative, do not edit, do not staunch. Just do it for everything. And then afterwards, you've now got clay. See which ones talk to you in what situations.
Yeah. When the dachshund that tried to eat you becomes your new friend. Dance it out, baby. So there I was, riding Biscuit into battle when the mockingbird flew away. Darn it. You got any more of them happy stories where the friends stay platonic? Yeah, okay, that's a thing. This is where I keep my great story endings. Where are my story endings? There's no story endings. One does not simply finish a story before starting the next story. I mean, this is the philosophy of snooker. Okay. That's what you got? Okay.
Yeah.
So just to give you this idea of Tom took and Tom does not know exactly where the story is going because I have not finished fleshing out all the fairy tale like stories that Snooker and Wee Wee are telling these two creatures in an attempt to essentially buy time. But he knows how the ending I want to get to, but he knows it is so far away, even I'm not actually sure how I'm going to reach it at this point. And he's still we can meme so much of this already. Yes, Everett. Hi, Everett. This is me. Just replace story with music. Exactly. A creative person is a creative person. And, we are, to some degree, all of us creatives are flying blind. So I'll cook gourmet meal to keep from telling the stories.
I mean, is mood.
Yes.
I'll finish the story as soon as you go get me these rose petals from, the forest glade.
Mm-hmm.
You can play this in reverse, but it's just if you like this humor, you will like Glory's story. That's what the whole point of those memes is. They have the same vibe. They are humorous about the same type of content. And so if you like one, then you'll probably be a fan for the other. Oh,
That's
you
the
act like
last one.
any of you are different.
Mood. Oh, look, I posted another cooking video instead of writing today after sending off the last story to the publishing house at 4:38 a.m. this morning. Yes. We are all called out.
But yeah,
But you know what? You can make a meme about that. That is bonus content.
Yep.
Particularly if you reference when you're posting it, which story is this about? Like, this is me sending, da-da-da story to the publishing house at 4:38 a.m. and you meme that so they know which story. Like, readers are interested in that. Let's be honest, that's why they're following you. Okay. That is why they are following your social media, is they're hoping to get little crumbs, little nibbles of the stories they like, or they want to know the rest of the story before they actually read the story.
And honestly, if you don't think that it's worth sharing, like, I almost changed the name of my podcast to Charlie Suffers for Your Amusement, because anytime like my depression flares up and I do an episode that's basically me in the role of Eeyore, just, hi, I haven't written lately. Those
Charlie,
are my most
YouTube,
popular
that will work.
episodes.
Charlie,
Those are my...
heavily consider using that title, if at least on YouTube. YouTube will promote that title.
This is true. But those are my most popular episodes. It's the ones where it's like, I got nothing done. My brain is on fire. My soul has died within me. Everything is gray and ashes, and I don't know why the dragon has burnt off everything down. Those are the popular episodes, and a lot of that is people want someone to commiserate with. And because I'm more open about the vagaries of my broken stained glass window that I call a brain, I have attracted a certain audience that's they know that they're going to eventually get that, because the brain do break, y'all. Brain do break. And I'm not afraid to talk about it, and talk about it in ways that are very, not just personal, but, and here's the things that I've been trying to do to get out of it, and here's how I've been trying to work through this. And that is bonus content for my fiction. My characters have this. Like, one of my favorite characters, Shinobu, is a depressive. Like, it is a big problem, because it's like, we need to save the world now. It is, why? Just why? Like, just let it burn. Just it's fine. It's fine. Like, will anybody even notice? Like, the last time we saved people, like, nobody cared. Like, nobody. Why? And he's so relatable to me, and I just absolutely love him. But
I mean, but you can meme that. You can meme that very easily, of the existential. Why do I already saved it once. Why do you want me to save it again? It's already on fire. What? Just. And that's why I posted that link, because I know one of the things that's hard, even when especially when you're in a creative mood, is remembering details of stuff. So like that one I posted, Meme Generator, has all the popular memes on it, and you can just fill it in. You don't have to remember the different memes. So you can just quickly look through and see what is it that talks to you, that you can think of a joke or, a reference to your stories in that form.
Because again, I think, I feel like my theme the last several weeks on your show has been, stop holding everything so precious. Like, I feel like that's my thing. But yeah, people enjoy hearing about your experience, because it's an experience they don't have. And whether you are ever going to convert them into readers or not, learning to find other ways to monetize those channels. There are ways to make a living off of that. I mean, dear God, Twitter now offers Twitter Blue, so people can pay for exclusive member-only tweets from you, because of course we've been clamoring for that feature all these years. I don't care about all the trolls that keep finding me and making me go, maybe I shouldn't use your app. I can just ask people to pay to read my tweets. Thank you for that. But I don't know, you get a big Twitter following, maybe that is a way for you to actually make money off of that. I don't know, right? It's not something that I foresee in my future, but because we live in this really weird era of late stage capitalism, everything is monetizable. So if you're doing
or else it doesn't count.
Right. And so if you're doing a podcast on something like Anchor, or there are other places that do it as well, when you get to monetization there, you can just put the ads in and make a passive income off of people listening to you talk about your writing journey.
Right.
And maybe that's how you're going to finance your writing. You don't know, but you're never going to find it if you don't try it. Because that's the thing that we have to be willing to do, is fail. Fail early, fail often. You won't find out how you're going to attract an audience, grow an audience, and have a relationship with one if you stay quiet in your own little house and never talk to people.
Also, failure is a good thing. Failure is where we learn.
Mm-hmm.
We don't learn, like the brain actually does not memorize a track of a series of behaviors that got to the end when it's a success. It memorizes, okay, that didn't work, now let's try a different way. That's what we actually learn from through a process of elimination. So lean into the failures. Go figure out, like, hey, let's go make a lot of bad choices together. Like that is where learning happens, where we gain skills, is through failure, not through success. And I used to hear that. I always thought that was such a strange thing to say when I was going through the education program to become a teacher. And my program really heavily leaned into psychology. In fact, it was from the College of Psychology at my university. And I always thought that was so strange. Like, what an odd thing to say, that we don't learn through success. Surely we learn through success. I feel like I learned through success. And then I saw it in action, teaching kids. There's this product called oobleck that you can make from water and cornstarch and heat, or not heat. And in fact, I set up a series of lessons based on oobleck, water and cornstarch, and then oobleck that I microwaved. And I put them in different zippable bags, like this. And I colored them differently, of course. And I gave them to my students. And I gave, each little team of students got a bag of each. And they were really, actually, their only assignment this one time was to figure out what is the one difference between these two. There's literally only one step difference between these two products. What is it? And they were supposed to, at the end, each team gets up there and they share their theories, all this stuff. Yes, it's fantastic. And they're supposed to share their theories about what could it be. And you could have multiple theories. That's fine. And we would start keeping on the board, which team. So we would see overall all this, we were doing ratios and all this stuff too. And the only student who actually guessed that the only difference was heat was the one student 2 weeks later who did not remember what was the difference between the two ooblecks. And I'm like, whoa, my mind was blown. All the other students remembered it because they were wrong. They had failed in their theories of what was the difference. They all keenly, they yelled it out. And then but the one student he was the only one who guessed it correctly, was the one who got it wrong on the test, on that chapter test. And it's because it was a success for him. His brain did not memorize it. So I just want to point that out again, of failure means you're learning. Do you want to be an ignorant person? I hope not. I hope that you're not working on this skill because you wish to be ignorant. That seems odd. So just remember that failure is the gift. Failure is the gift. I am dead serious. And any group you're in that penalizes you for failing is not a constructive group. And frankly, you need to avoid them like the plague, like a real plague people take seriously. Because they're not going to encourage you to learn. So again, Find a group or construct your own social group that encourages you to fail, and then share your learnings. Like what we're doing here.
Yeah. So Spence actually reminded me of what was the sort of origin of all those memes you saw, which was, in Glory's perspective, there was nothing memeable because there's nothing funny here. This is all a very serious story. How can I meme that? But that's the whole point is, as Spence said, like, I need this for non-funny things. Maybe it'd help me solve the Too Precious problem. I'm definitely taking it too seriously, and I can't really decide if I want to lean into the angst or if I want to bring it into the absurdism that I also love, is that you take the serious parts, but when you put them in a meme, you will see that it can also be absurd. The part where they are never finishing a story because they are stalling for time and they are trying to survive while they are among these, demigods and these elemental deities. Because, they are just simple little brownies. They are even weaker and more fragile than humans. And so they are, playing this. They are in the hot seat, sometimes literally, as, they are tap dancing for all their life. But if you put those moments and you take it out of context, then you get absurdism. So you can take any serious moment in your story, put it into a meme, and all of a sudden it becomes absurd because it's not what the reader is dealing with at that moment. Versus you heard from several of our people following us, who are also writers, feeling called out about their own storytelling because they also tell stories. Which is, a lot of these memes are about these brownies telling stories.
My original problem with the brownie stories is I don't have endings for all these little fairy tale like stories, and Tom's like, you don't need them. You could just interject. It's bedtime.
So
that's something our mother used to actually do to us during story time right before bed. Evil.
I am sorry, Spence. I shared a link. I can never remember when she's canceled and when she's not, but I don't know. To ContraPoint's wonderful video, The Darkness, because all gay humor is, for the most part, an absurdist take on suffering. And she does a wonderful breakdown of how the depression and ennui that we feel because of the world and the way that it is and the way that it treats us, how we as a community have turned that into humor, and in fact has some of the funniest trans jokes I've ever heard in my life in there, because there's more than just the helicopter joke. Like, really, there's more than just the one joke. We're funny people. There are a lot of things.
What was it? Playboy printed a trans joke that wasn't actually, that was feminist forward and not anti-trans at all. It was like one of the very first
in like the 1980s.
It's a good joke. I've read it, y'all. Yeah. It's actually a good joke. I was like, oh, I feel so seen right now.
In like the 1980s.
Yeah, in what was it, like 82? It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was very long ago. But anyway, my point just being, these are the things that we can share that readers will respond to. And number one, you won't feel so alone.
Yeah.
And number two, readers will feel even more invested in you because they're like, oh, you struggle with things just like I do, and you still put out something that I look forward to reading. You are an ally of mine because you're helping keeping me sane. And you can communicate that with memes, for instance. And they don't always have to be visual memes like the meme generator. You can do the printed ones. Remember, like nobody, and then me out of the blue, or those kind of print memes and so on. There are other ones as well. And just share your struggles. It doesn't have to be about the story itself. It can be about you as a writer, or you trying to write, or just you every day after work. Whatever.
All right. Probably is about time, though, for a break.
Yes. Sleep well, Mr. Spence.
Well, actually, it looks like Mr. Spence was just talking about the time to go to bed before we finish the story.
Oh, yes. She would do this She knew she was driving us nuts. But really what it was she couldn't think of an ending in that moment, that she was like telling a story on the fly. So she was buying time. It works. It's a very old Jewish trope of just, I'll tell you tomorrow. But it's like they're buying time. It's a very old Jewish trope.
It's also the secret to how The Hobbit got written.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. So, without further ado, let's take a break. You know what? Now might be a lovely time to... Do you have something to drink? Stay hydrated. We're a hydrate or dihydrate kind of group. And do you have a snack? A little snacky snack? Tom got donuts. Delicious apple fritters. Or have you checked in with your bladder recently? Your bladder is your friend.
Is it?
It really, let me tell you, you'll miss her when she's gone. I'll tell you that right now. My bladder and I have had a complicated relationship my entire life.
Yeah.
Because with Ehlers-Danlos, it meant that I wet the bed for like the first 11 years of my life. And my parents were ashamed. I was not ashamed. They're divergent.
So you and your dachshund had a lot in common. You really got each other.
Yeah, because my dachshund also wet the beds the first 2 years of her life. She didn't mean to, but as the vet explained it, do you realize how long the nerves have to be to get all the way to a dachshund bladder? The bladder's going to give up the holding it in before the brain realizes and goes, oh, I better go outside. It's just how it is. So because they develop slower, they're usually about 3 years old before they stop wetting the bed entirely. And I'm like, oh, because that's actually when they get out of adolescence. That's when dachshunds stop being little teenage dogs at about somewhere between year 2 and year 3. And the vet said, yeah, when they actually become fully adult, they stop wetting the bed. And I'm like, moi. So yeah, it's just one of those things of me and my bladder, we have a mixed relationship, but still you'll miss her when she's gone. I'm just saying, because catheters are no fun. So anyway, and on that lovely note, I know you all wanted to hear that. Let's take a little breaky break. And because we miss Prince Roy, we're going to use Laura's Roy timer. Maybe beep. Maybe beep. Woof, woof, woof. Maybe beep. Woof.
She really just rough.
Woof, woof. Oh, I could do bigger. Woof, woof, woof. How did everybody do? Anybody get something to drink? Oh dear.
And Andy had to wake up early today, so he's like, "No, it's not that late for me."
So rude. Yes.
That's a rude Monday.
Hello, Eva. There are no quality donut places in Spence's, Mr. Spence's neck of the woods.
I was working on editing that video, and I was like, I'm going to finish this paragraph of speech that I am saying. I'm not stopping in the middle of a sentence. Wow, my sentence goes on for some time when I talk.
But yeah. All right. On to the next. I thought, though, before we continue on with the different bonus content you do, something also to think about is, what is your audience? And that also kind of informs what kind of bonus content they're going to be interested in. Like if you have a middle grade book you think teachers might actually enjoy doing a book club with, then having some designing and actually putting out there lesson plans and crosswords and everything else is definitely a good way to get your book more popular, because teachers are always looking for someone who's taken all the load off of them to do a project.
If anybody is actually interested, I do have a lesson plan template that I am happy to send you. It is mostly in Word, but I may be able to make it so that you could use it in Google Docs. But it's a literal plug and play lesson plan template.
Mm-hmm.
You just go through in the order they are numbered. If I remember, I think I have them numbered. But you go through them one by one and you just fill it in as you have it. It's just a Mad Lib type lesson plan, but it meets national curriculum criteria. So anyway, if anybody does need that now or in the future, let me know. I'm happy to share that.
I have links for a lot of websites to help you do a lot of this that I'll post up in the comments. I mean, in the comments after the show. That's what I've already posted in the private chat, so Gloria can see all the different ones to help you do different things. But yeah, if you have a middle grade or an upper grade one that you think teachers might like talking about, essentially running, you can do all this stuff that essentially is a young person's book club materials. Versus if it's for adults and older adults, you may want to include book club materials of, here's questions to ask.
Yeah, book discussions.
And discuss. Here is, recipes that go with it. Of when they're all together that are easily accessible, groups are more likely to do it because you've taken the heavy load off of them. That's another use of bonus content, is to encourage people to discuss and talk about your story. So yeah, like with book clubs, yeah, they want recipes, they want questions to ask. They too probably would actually be interested in word searches. Another use is,
the big dark secret of teachers. Worksheets are the devil, but also they are a lifesaver in situations. So while teachers say, oh, I would never use a worksheet, like a word search or a crossword puzzle, they will use it in a pinch. So you never say, attention teachers. You just I'm just going to leave this worksheet here on my website for anyone who wants to download it in PDF. And it just happens to have a place for name at the top.
So to give you an idea, Discovery Education has a web page that will just help you make all the major kinds of ones. You have there's crosswords, fallen phrase, math squares, mazes, cryptograms, and depending on
And
the
of course,
story you're
my
writing,
favorite, hidden message.
and if you want, as another form of using this bonus content just for an individual reader, you could have your characters interact with some type of puzzle like this, and maybe put like a time frame on it of how quickly they need to solve this, so that then they can themselves kind of put themselves in the place of your protagonist and see how quickly could they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people want to interact with that story and feel like they're part of that universe still. So anything you can take out of your story and allow people to touch and interact with is great bonus content.
And the other thing that we're kind of dancing around here is getting your readers to see your work as more than content, but as story. Because given the voraciousness of readers and the ubiquity of stories for them to read, if you are not giving them ways to engage and encouraging them to share, there's a high likelihood that they will get to the end and go, "Oh, good book, loved that, 5 stars, on to the next." And they may not think to actually put in the rating of 5 stars in wherever they purchased your content, because there's always that next book out there to read. There's always that next story to get into. And again, part of our wonderful late stage capitalist world that we live in, there's so much FOMO about, well, everyone's reading this book now. I need to hurry up and finish this one that I'm really enjoying so I can get to that book so I can be a part of the discussion about that. You want your book to be that book that's getting the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is how you can start getting people thinking about your stuff. If you're writing something like the Da Vinci Code, yes, be putting out cryptograms, be putting out hidden messages and things. Do that a lot. Think about how big Five Nights at Freddy's is just because of the weird viral marketing that they do for those, where there are messages hidden in the image, in the promotional images. There are messages hidden in the sound files for the game. There are little messages hidden everywhere that could have been such a waste of time for him to do, except for people found them and went, "Hey, what is this?" and started talking about them, and really made those games into the phenomenon that they are. ARGs would be so much fun, and especially if you're doing a Da Vinci Code type story, that's not a difficult ARG to make, because you can actually work in a lot of real life museum sites and stuff like that as places where people can get their information from. And that's a lot less content that you have to do on your side for that, because alternate reality games are so big. And you look at how big, what is it, Inscription is right now? Isn't that I always want to say Encryption, but I think it's Inscription, the game that like everyone is playing on Twitch, and that Mr. Spence just finished a playthrough of with the card game. More than half the discussion of that is the whole meta narrative of how was this game made? Yeah, Inscription. Yeah, how is this game made? Why is it made the way that it is? And they're not talking about the actual game developers, because the game itself is an artifact in the game. And because of that recursive nature of the story, it's got people doing all kinds of theory crafting and just trying to figure things out. Layers on top of layers on top of layers. And it in games like Five Nights at Freddy's have shown this wonderful thing where people are making their own bonus content for you in trying to decrypt all of the things that you've snuck into your story.
Yes.
The only real caveat I have on this is make sure your story is better than your bonus content, because there are many things that I will never forgive Ridley Scott for, but so many. It's
so much.
Such a long list.
That's a big iceberg right there.
But when it was announced that he was going back to the Alien franchise, which many of you know is my like absolutely favorite sci-fi movie. I love I actually like Aliens better, but I'm not gonna start down that rabbit hole right now. They started making all of this bonus content around it, where we got to see what was going on at Weyland-Yutani, and they made a lot of like Weyland-Yutani infomercials and like training videos and stuff. They did some stuff for the Space Marines. They did a lot of content that is not in the movie at all around the movie to get people excited to go see Prometheus in the theater. And the problem is that content is better than the movie. That content actually alludes to ideas that are not even mentioned in the movie or its subsequent sequels that are more interesting than the things that are in the movie and the subsequent sequels. And it's kind of like the whole thing, like if you didn't miss it, the ARG around Cloverfield is so much more interesting than Cloverfield itself.
Yes.
So much more interesting.
So figure out where, like, if you do that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just realize, oh, I should be making ARGs as my form of art.
Yeah.
Like, you've learned something about yourself. But, it use that as a teachable moment.
And I mean, like, another thing you can always do is reference books that libraries keep. And say, you know, this edition on this page, and then have them maybe comment about something on the other page. That if they want to find out, they're going to have to find that edition. Of, you know, go to the library, go see what it is they found, feel what they feel. Oh, yes. Omega Mart.
Yep.
Is a really good ARG, yeah. It is crazy. It helps if you live near Las Vegas, where they had the store for a while. But that stuff, again, is fascinating theory craft.
The Sun is Missing is a really interesting one. It happened all on Twitter, between, I think, 3 Twitter accounts. So yeah, if you need resources for all of that, like, we could definitely amongst us put together a list of good ARGs if you're not familiar with it. But
well, I suddenly remember, like, the very original. I don't know if you call it quite an ARG, it's sort of proto. But if you ever go look up Lonely Girl 16,
yep.
Before anyone knew what it was, in part because, it is an ARG in part because it was multi websites. There was YouTube posts, but there was also stuff on Twitter, and there were several different locations to find this story that at the time everyone thought was really happening. They did what a real sequel to the original Blair Witch Project really should have been.
Yes.
But yeah, like, consider what's the audience. Like, so there's individual stuff that individual people might want to go do. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's also what the memes are for. And then there's stuff that groups want to discuss. Like, I still remember I was in a book club and they did The Paris Wife. And I was just truly like, why are we doing this book? So what I didn't know is that the publisher, before this book even came out, had already made up all the book club materials. So the second it was available, book clubs could start reading, and they already had everything done ahead.
Because, like, a lot of book clubs are run by either a teacher or a librarian, and they are not given enough time to prepare book club discussion points and materials. So to already have pages and pages of book club materials already available, also bookmarks pre-done, so you could just print them out on your own printer and give them to everybody. And all of this stuff, posters for book club, and you just write it in. All of this material was immediately available for free to anyone wanting to do a book club. You didn't even have to, like, get access. You could just go to the website, the publisher's website, and download it as a packet. And it was all there. You'd have to print it yourself. But nevertheless, you know, like, a lot of libraries, for instance, have color laser printers available. so they could just print it out themselves. And it was available before the book streeted.
Yeah.
And they made sure that all the libraries and universities and schools knew this is available now, and it will be available for at least the next 5 years. So be sure. So it meant that most book clubs, like library type book clubs or even university library book clubs, they have their book club budget set the year before, and they buy all their books for the whole year one time. So to know ahead of time, this is available and we can then just get it. And then that's a whole month where all the materials have already been done. The librarian, whoever's in charge, doesn't have to do any time preparing or pulling any information. It's already here. Is a load off their mind. So they all did it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was reading this dang book.
That wasn't that good to begin with.
It was terrible, y'all. It was like, just leave him. Just leave Hemingway. It wasn't well written either, quite honestly. Like, it's not the worst book ever, but it's not.
Everyone in this book club commented on this wasn't that well written. Like, it was actually one of the comments everyone made in this. Why are we reading this? This wasn't that good to begin with.
So everybody added it as their book club book
mm-hmm.
throughout the country. Like, there's 1,500 public libraries in America. And I think 3/4 of them or more, 80%, have a book club.
And there's the secret of, if you want your book to be part of a book club,
you got to do all the materials yourself, including the poster and the printable bookmarks. Mm-hmm. Already formatted. So multiple forms of formatting for the bookmarks. Where they can write in the date.
And go look at another book club material set to figure out what you need.
Mm-hmm. Go look at, like, HarperCollins does pretty good book club materials. Penguin sometimes has book club materials, but just like look up how publishers are doing.
And just remember to post on your Twitter and other things, to use the hashtag book club so people know that you've got it, and mention you've got all the materials ready for if any book clubs want to read your book and read your stories. Because if they hear the materials are already made, they are far more likely, because like librarians and teachers are not paid to spend extra time on this.
They're not paid to read the book. They're not paid to prepare the materials.
Yeah.
But they are expected to do it as part of their job. So this is the unpaid part of their job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're happy to take the shortcut if somebody else already did the work.
And so that's a good way to have a much higher chance of it getting into a book club.
2 of the to-do lists that I have for the Cozy Mystery series that I want to write is to make an in-universe Clue-style game, tabletop game, to go with it, with a simple printable game board that people can play it on their own, or maybe even go into production and actually make one. I also want to do one of those, like, how to host a mystery boxes.
Oh, I love murder mystery dinners.
And because I do know that for one of the stories, food is going to be a part of it. So it would include the recipes so that you could actually eat the infamous dinner from the event that happens and actually try to solve a version of the mystery on your own. Because I felt like the moment I started thinking about cozy mysteries, those are 2 things that immediately went into my mind, was the fun we used to have doing those murder mystery dinners and just the sheer joy of it. And I don't know, that might be a side gig where people care more about the mystery boxes than they do about the books. I don't know. But
real quick, here's how you can get anyone far more excited in your murder mystery than others. Have it be recipes and give them something, and in the recipe and in the person who's going to be murdered, just put a few drops of almond flavoring and a bittering agent. And that's how the person will find out that they're the dead one.
Yep.
And watch how everyone's like, oh, the interactive quality.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
people want to play. They want to interact.
How many murder mystery boxes did I pay for and force all of my friends and my friends' friends
so many
to attend? Like, I felt so seen and called out in that movie Booksmart. with the like, no, this is your role. Here is your character profile. Like, oh my god, that's me. Yes, I did that. I did multiple times where I forced people to bring a guest who's also going to be a character. I paid for these boxes. I loved them so much. I still love them. One day. So be sure to also make invitations.
Yeah. And they also made those for other genres as well, because as somebody who lived through the 90s when this was a really big trend, like official branded ones that they got the licenses for. I remember there was a Star Trek one where you were faced with an anomaly and everything you needed to figure out how to solve it was included in all the pieces that you got to help work it out and actually solve it on your own. Because the fun thing about a lot of plots, whether they are for science fiction, fantasy, or what have you, they can often be boiled down to a mystery plot. Yep. Here's a riddle, here's a puzzle. You look at what Hunt a Killer is doing right now with the boxes that they're sending out and stuff like that. Like, this is a popular still activity for people. You know, escape rooms are a really, really huge thing. Like, if your story involves somebody getting trapped, can you figure out an at-home escape room kind of thing that you can just put out as a bonus? Because this is where my mind goes to, because I want people interacting with the world. Most of the stories I'm writing, because I do sci-fi and fantasy, are in series. Because if you're not doing a series, it's going to be really hard to sell your stuff, because in sci-fi and fantasy, your books usually don't start selling until book 3. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you're not building up to it and people are slowly accumulating over time, it's really hard to build that audience in sci-fi and in fantasy. So I want people spending as much time as they can in my settings and in my worlds, thinking about them, wondering about them, setting up little mysteries for them to solve. And that's one of the reasons why I've become obsessed with World Anvil, because while I haven't gotten to the point of putting my elf shoes up there yet, oh no, I tell a lie. There's a cocktail in the Dragons of Night setting called Elf Shoes that I believe the recipe is up, because I was laughing really, really hard, and it's like so many layers of really bad jokes because it does involve Baileys, and like it's so many layers of really bad jokes to make one article. But I think that one's public. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to go check on that in a little bit. But giving people an excuse to spend time with your characters. You wrote that character profile, didn't you? You sat down and figured out how this culture works that your character is living in, didn't you? Hopefully you have those notes that you can repurpose and put up there, so that if somebody becomes fascinated by the town that your characters are from, or any of the little details that you put in there, they have a place to go. Star Trek and Star Wars understand this, and we as sci-fi fantasy writers need to as well. I can't tell you how many times I have bought the quote-unquote canonical book of the Jedi or the canonical book of the Sith that explains the philosophy and history of these orders, and none of them agree, because they keep, well, up until the mega reboot when Disney bought them, changing everything.
Yep.
But I kept buying them because I'm obsessed with these settings. I love these settings, and I can find out you've got more stories about Nagasato? Yes, please. And I would grab these books. Like, did I really care what Emperor Palpatine thought about this, that, or the other thing? Not really, but did I buy the Book of the Sith to read his handwritten notes? Because they literally had handwritten notes of him anger scrawling in books of like, whoever wrote this book was an idiot, and this is actually how the Force works. And it's like, it's brilliant, and I love it, and it's stupid, and it's great. And did I buy all of it? Yes. Are you making those things for your stuff? Because if you're a sci-fi fantasy writer, you probably have made 90% of that stuff already, just in the pre-writing.
Yeah, like
where understand your work.
We talked earlier in this particular season about among the things you need to be doing is drawing out maps, even if it's just the layout of a house or the basic layout of the town that the majority of your story is taking place in. All of that is bonus content. Every last bit of that is of interest to readers, whether you're intending to put it out with the main story or if you're going to allude to it in your social media posts on various platforms. All of that you need to do, like character profiles, maps, layouts, you name it, all of that readers are interested in, even if you're like, I don't see how this would be interesting in the main story. They want to see the house layout.
And this is where you can set up those mysteries to get people talking. If you know in 5 books that you're going to have a very important secret room that is going to play a major part in your story, I'm not talking about any book in particular, have a weird void on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone will notice that. If you get people interested enough, they'll notice, why is this not labeled? Why are there no doors here? But there are walls on all 4 sides of it. What is this room? Why is it here? And the best bonus content is when you can seed stuff like that in, have someone else notice it. Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with Five Nights at Freddy's and, all the games that have come out after it. Someone else notices it, says, hey, did anybody else see this? This is kind of weird.
I've seen it with stories I've read, books I've read, where the book, inside the book, was a basic layout of this tiny southern town. And every building, is like appropriately like a little square and is labeled. And there was one building that was not labeled. And it turned out it wasn't labeled for reasons due to the story that you do not figure out till after the story's over and you're putting the pieces together going, oh, hold up. And that is when that leads to the second book in the series that was not declared a series when I got the first book. And that was like in the 90s. So you can do things without like letting the cat out of the bag. If anything, they'll like it even more, quite honestly. Carrie points out, we're both clicking things. What about playing your book characters in Sims, trying to replicate your town and talking about it while streaming and playing?
Yes,
absolutely. Plus, if you make that town publicly available, like, isn't there a way to like post, or at least various houses? Yep. You can post publicly, and you can let people, like your website, put on your website that like if you play Sims 4. Look, this is what it's called. You can download it, and here's all the houses I've made, and this is what they're called, so you can find them. Because people are interested in that, as well as if you already did it, maybe it helped you with your world building. Readers want to go through your world and play around.
Also, just to get a true visual of what are these homes looking like. Mm-hmm. Again, they want to interact. They want to feel part of that world. They are Ariel. Yes, of maps and other ways to visualize your story world are always great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, also, include images of your reference. Another one people really like is just your research materials. I mean, for all the true trouble and just semi-feels of Margaret Atwood, she did make public her research materials for her stories so people could understand where she was coming from, and that these stories are not as out there and outrageous as people put them as. No, she didn't make up anything. These are all based on stories that happened in the real world. Here's what, the different cults that made these outfits. Here's what those outfits actually looked like that she then riffed on.
Not an original bone in her body.
Yeah, not that creative.
But grateful she shared her research I learned so much about things that in the 90s had not been made publicly, like in the news didn't pick up on, wasn't in the encyclopedias that I had access to. And so I originally found out about many things through Margaret Atwood sharing her research, and a very nice, scary librarian pulling those articles where she was interviewed for me and giving me copies so I could read these in the 90s, when I first discovered an audio book from Recorder Books Incorporated of The Handmaid's Tale. So, yeah, Maggie says, I have stuff like that in Revelation of Ash, ASH. So, and like, that's one of the reasons why I set up in my Discord server places for all my research, in part to just go ahead and share it. Hopefully, you know, other writers can benefit from it, but also if readers later want to go down and look through all my research, it's already there. Kat says, Carrie, now I want to play Sims 2 because I can completely build the town. Excellent. Yeah, definitely. And, you know, Twitch stream it. Download the stream afterwards. Post it up to YouTube or whatever, you know, like, so that you have ways to share it with your readers later as bonus content.
And this is also a really good place to do collab projects with your friends, because like I was thinking, you know, I finally let myself give in to my obsession with Gentleman Jack. And so I have been reading the book that inspired it. I can't stop singing that stupid theme song to the show and then listen to other stuff by that band, and have fallen in love with this Celtic folk music duo that I did not know existed before that, and have gone down such a rabbit hole of just, yes, please give me everything Ann Lister, everything that there is. And we can pull that off with our own work if we know the right people and are bringing them in and making it happen. You know, we often work in such isolated fields, especially as writers, as musicians, as whatever your particular craft may be. And we don't think about the wonderful things that we can do in the in-between and among us to make things better. And, you know, you never know when a friend of yours is just looking for a project to fiddle around on for a while.
Yep. It's true. Like, I have definitely offered up all the recipes that we've posted in experimental recipes on our Discord to anybody who wants to make it and give us feedback, but also anybody who wants to play around with formatting. Like, because sometimes you need someone's clay, because you yourself are not much of a cook, but you want to play around with, you know, recipe formatting. Okay. Have a lovely time. Play around with it. Have my blessings. We'd love to see it afterwards if you want to share. But, you know, have some clay.
Because, yeah, like Gloria and I have a lot of experience actually writing down recipes that other people will then follow. Like, that is definitely its own skill and craft, is making a recipe someone else can follow.
Yes.
And
something that don't work.
And I will say, one of the things that I've been playing around with when I occasionally bring out my cozy mystery story when it's harassing me, is knowing historically how recipes have been written.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that lineage there, because rabbit hole I fell down.
You mean back when they were receipts?
Yeah. And give you ample place to hide clues and, you know, secretly put messages in, because, well, people actually did that with cookbooks sometimes, where they would communicate with themselves. There's a whole, if I'm remembering this correctly, there was some cookbooks that were published in England after basically Catholicism was banned, where most of the recipes were actual recipes, but some of the recipes were coded messages between people about things.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's so many YouTube resources now that talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about just Emily Dickinson's many love poems on the back of her recipe receipts?
Yes.
That, you know, with the implication that how she was feeling in the poem influenced the dish she was making. including like when she was mad at somebody putting something into the baked good that they hated to poison it, quote unquote. Not real poison, but if like they hated raisins, putting raisins in to ruin it for them, like they've ruined her love for them. Anyway.
All right,
good night. Good night, Mr. Spence.
Good night.
Yes, there are knit and crochet patterns that are coded messages. Yes, actually, like if you can follow a crochet pattern, you can do software programming. There is no difference.
Like it was not the writers of I know this sounds a little off, but still, of the people who wrote Karate Kid did not come up with this. We teach them how to do these body motions by doing these exercises that they're not thinking about. We've done that for eternity with everything. Of how do you get a kid to learn something? We'll have them enjoy whatever they're doing, and they'll remember whatever data you put with it. That's why we have all of these little rhymes, all of these songs, these games to teach kids. I mean, how many people know the silly little rhyme about tying your shoelaces, and you're always going to think about a bunny whenever you tie your shoelaces?
Or there's little rhymes similar to double, double, boil, and trouble that actually go with different knit and crochet stitches. Like how to make the stitch is the little nursery rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coded. It's not meant to necessarily be obscure, but it's just coded so that you will remember the little rhyme to remember how to do this particular kind of stitch for your pattern.
And if you do those rhymes in a certain pattern, you might notice a message in there of, wait, do what with how? Of, again, it is just in, sequence of events. You can put a lot of information in there without people noticing.
Which is how we got our modern playing cards and quite a bit of our modern tarot. Mm-hmm. Is they were... Tarot was not despite what some people may tell you, was not invented to tell secret messages like that, but it was used to tell secret messages like that. And you can tell a lot about a deck of cards and its lineage, especially older decks. You can immediately know if the person who made it is Protestant or Catholic based off of certain cards that are included. Mm-hmm. For example, the Protestant decks did not have an Empress card. They had a Papist card that took its place. That was very clearly an analogy and a call out to the legend of Pope Joan. And isn't it funny how these people could have been tricked by a woman because, misogyny. But you can see all that very much in the lineage of both how tarot and playing cards are set up. If you've ever wondered why are certain face cards self-harming, because it's one of the weirdest things about how we have our modern iconography for the cards. When you go back into the history, those were basically political cartoons that you couldn't get in trouble for because they're just playing cards, man. It doesn't have the king's name on it. You don't know who I'm talking about. You don't know who I'm talking about at all.
It's just coincidence. He's, known as the king of that suit.
Yes, it's just purely coincidence. And that's something that you can really play with in your own stories and in your own settings in a way that's a lot of fun, that you can then take advantage of that in your stories, right? Because I do see a lot of people who are incorporating either tarot or something like that into their worlds, into their settings, or sometimes even into the plot. But there are some fun rabbit holes that you could set up for that. What is the tarot spread that your character is using? Put a thing out on how somebody could use that tarot spread if you're comfortable with doing that. And I figure if you're comfortable enough to have it in your book, you should be comfortable enough to actually share the spread with people, so other people can try that too. What does the suit? What do the cards look like? Can you work with an artist and actually make the deck that they're using? There are a lot of just incidental things that you could be doing that you might not even think about. I mean, if I could, again, going back to Star Wars, how many different versions of Sabacc I have bought over the years because they keep just changing their minds over what this game actually is. Is it
How about
poker? Is it blackjack?
Yeah. How about the time they forgot the cards are supposed to be round, and it looks like a regular deck of cards?
Yep.
And it's like, wait, what?
Or just look at the fan interest in how do you actually play Tango. And there are vibrant communities online that have watched every episode of Deep Space Nine or any other show where they're sitting around the table playing Tango and trying to divine the rules to this game so that they can play it because it is obviously fun. Everybody's sitting around playing Tango. How do like there are competing rule sets where people are literally arguing over no, that was a joke, not actually a rule. You see, the game's actually played this way because people are so invested in a fictional card game.
And if you ever need true proof of this, go look up History of Yu-Gi-Oh! On YouTube and listen to them read this game to filth about they had no idea what they were doing with the rules. Everything just sounds good in the anime and manga. These rules make no sense. They tried to create a rule set. It still didn't make sense. All of this game is broken.
And on that note, how about we take a break? Again, now's a lovely time to see, do you have a snack? Something to drink? Is it time for a little walkie walk? Or a bladder check? And we will see you in approximately 10 minutes, where we will continue to talk about more bonus content you can do with links. Maybe beep. Maybe beep. Maybe beep. Raindrops keep falling on my head. That doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. La 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 la. La 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 la. Because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me.
What's that like? I've never been like that.
I've heard tell of it. So, everybody feeling a little more refreshed, or in some of our cases, sleepier? Good night. Take a nice nap. Charlie has joined us. Hello. I guess actually I should say it in her native language. Hello, eh? There are no Canadians in the room to get my joke.
Does that mean that anytime you talk to me, I just have to be like, hey, girl?
Hey, girl. What's up? I want to. I just don't want to be overly that person.
But I'm that person.
I am too.
As a friend of mine has proclaimed on numerous occasions, you are why the straights do not like us.
I feel like the question, the greeting question for Charlie is always like, so what you been up to with the cops lately?
Oh dear.
What kind of trouble you been?
All the troubles.
I am very well behaved.
In what planet?
Well, that means that, no one was called. And there's no evidence.
You can prove nothing.
As far as my record shows, I've never done anything wrong ever.
Yeah, okay. Megan says finished page 1, wrote a paragraph on page 2. Very nice. That's excellent. Cat got dinner. Good stuff.
Posted pictures.
Very nice. I got a nice little potty break in, and then I went over to Tom's room to ask him, do we have more to talk about? And he's like, oh, we have so much more.
So understanding copyright. Let's start here just for a brief second, because
Okay.
I warned that I was going to go here, but
yeah. Before we go on to the other more bonus content, because there's so many kinds.
There's so much.
Let's talk about copyright, because almost no one seems to understand it anymore.
Not even librarians. And let me tell you how many librarians I've gone head to head with. And they're like, no, but I'm right. I have a master's degree and you don't. And I'm like, I am right because I literally have the U.S. Constitution, the Smithsonian, and the U.S. Patent Office on my side, and you don't.
So thanks to copyright attorneys and the Library of Congress, who are the ones officially in charge of what is or is not right and wrong in the world of copyright, all you have to do to invent a copyright is to add words in front of the word copyright, and you have invented a new right. When you publish a work, and by publish a work, I mean hit save for the first time while you're drafting, because legally that is considered its moment of creation and the moment in which its copyright is born, which makes everything so complex and more interesting in these days and ages. You have generated instantaneously thousands of rights that you do not know that you have access to, and through which you can monetize things for. So, when you go to sell your work, you have your first digital rights. You have your second digital rights. Did you know you can just slap the word first, second, plus modifier and create new rights for your work? You can. We're seeing this happen all the time. You have first audio rights to the book. No. Oh no, it's not that simple. You have first single reader audio rights to your work. You have first multi-reader audio rights to your work, you have first full cast rights to your work, and you have first auto-generated robot read rights to your book, all of which cover your variant rights and how they are perceived legally in the eyes of the publishing industry and under law in the United States. I cannot speak for other countries. Your mileage may vary. But at least here, you can literally slap a number, an adjective, and the word copyright together, and you've probably actually stumbled on an actual right that you have for this book. Because when you write your story, you actually have first derivative comic book rights. Because, yes, you have those that you can sell to. You have innumerable rights here. So, when you're actually doing stuff with your work, it's important to understand what you are using, which of these rights you are burning away. If you are publishing your work, say, on a Wattpad or I want to go to something that's not a paid site for this analogy, so whatever, a Royal Road, anything like that, that you are using both your first publication right and your first digital right.
Oh, AO3.
AO3, yes. You're using your first publishing right and your first digital publishing right because it has been published digitally. Those rights can never come back again. Once the number is used, the number is used. So if you're trying to submit this story to a place that wants the first digital rights, and you'll notice when you read the actual terms of service for any of these publishers, they will specifically tell you what rights they are buying.
Yeah.
And if they do not, they either don't know what they're doing or they're trying to swindle you. Ask questions.
Yeah, be careful of the word perpetuity.
Yes. So, if you are wanting to sell your first digital rights, you should not put them anywhere else. If you're putting it up on Kindle Vella, you have given them your eternal, until you go through their very passive-aggressive mechanism for taking it down, perpetual rights to it is a revocable perpetual license to the digital version of your book. The digital version can only be published elsewhere if it is published in the same manner. Now, the reason I'm going through all of that is these are all things that can be used for bonus content. They could be repackaged where you give away a chapbook that is the first 3 chapters of your book. That is a thing that you can do. That does burn through your copyright. You can put out a podcast that is your audiobook. This is a thing that you can do. Depending on how you are doing it, you are definitely using your first audio rights. That the moment it gets translated into audio, that has been used. Even if you just read the book aloud on a live stream, you have used your first audio rights because they play by old school virginity rules. Someone else was there. It's already happened. It's done. But I've seen people splitting this hair so finely that they're asserting that there is a difference legally between first author read audio right and first reader read audio right. I've seen these hairs split that finely down because even though the first audio right has been used, the first full cast or first reader right may not have been. Copyright is confusing on purpose so that we writers don't know the power that we actually have in this field. But the more that you know about the rights that you possess, the easier it is to come up with these other derivative forms of content. You knew I was going to say it at some point.
I'm actually just trying to remember who's the other copyright lawyer on YouTube besides Legal Eagle. What's his name? Is also a good resource.
Yeah, I know you're talking about, but it's not.
He's always got weird hats on.
Yeah. The name is not. Names and I are not friends today.
Yeah, it's like something with an L. Like Lenny.
But start
Leonard French.
There you go.
You got there eventually. Good job.
But start familiarizing yourself with this, because maybe you do want to do that podcast. Maybe you do want to do some of these other things. Remember, you have all of these rights get duplicated once you add the word language in. So all of these are your first world and first English rights. Oh, but maybe you do it all over again in Japanese or German or Hindi. All of these rights regenerate and just get the word, whatever, insert the name of the language here in, and they're born anew, fresh, to be able to do with as they will. And the reason I'm saying that it's important to know the US law here is we've kind of sort of signed a treaty with a lot of other countries where basically however copyright is in one country, it has to be recognized in the other signatories to said contract. And if you want to know which countries these are, load up your KDP dashboard and scroll down to other places where your work will be sold. This is a pretty good list. You can also find this in the Google Books list of where else will Google be selling your book.
Mm-hmm.
But you have first language rights in all of those countries. That is derivative content that if you can find a way to do it, or if you know a place where it's not forbidden to read English or not taboo or is actually popular, finding somebody to help you make Japanese language or German language or French language or Spanish language content to draw in people to your English language story. A lot of people practice their English by reading English fiction.
Mm-hmm. Honey, a lot of people learn English just to read English fiction because it is amazing. English fiction is mwah. Well, English language fiction. I want to clarify that. I am not talking about the English. I'm talking about English language fiction. Mwah.
Truly, the difference between English authors and English language authors is so different.
English, don't worry about them. They're okay.
Look, I'll never forget that episode. I will love it.
I know you were going to reference it the moment I said it. There's an episode of The Librarians.
TV series.
I love that show so much.
That is very close to Tom's heart. It's
where
the Dorian Gray episode.
Mm.
And he challenges the bouncer who's got an English degree that he will pay him a large cover charge he'll tip him if he can name one famous English author. As he keeps going, nope, that guy's Welsh, that's Scottish, that's Irish, Australian. I'm like,
yep,
but they're not English.
They're not English, y'all.
Because it's kind of like English wine. No one wants to drink it.
I think you broke my husband.
Is he deeply crying on the corner?
No, he's giggling madly at the English wine joke.
Like, look, you'll never forget it if you've had to drink it.
I mean, okay, the real truth is...
The scars last forever in your stomach.
The real joke, though, is actually British wine, because there's no requirement for derivation or origin with British wine. And so they put the trashiest stuff. English wine itself, you can find true one isn't that bad. But if you see the word British on it, it's like, well, this has no quality. This is the trashiest of wines. I would rather have California
category in European wine.
Yes.
And you know if you've ever had British wine because you're like, what was this, mop water?
So true.
No, it's British wine. Oh, God. Put it in the mop bucket.
So when you are working on all of this bonus content, you are actually using up your derivative rights, which you also have under copyright. So if you are making for yourself a little video game or a tabletop RPG or any of those, you are
an ARG.
Or an ARG, you're actually using derivative rights for that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of, that you are generating what is literally a gold mine of rights and adaptation opportunities every time you write a story.
If you can monetize your creative output, there is a copyright there. That's what they're
Yeah.
using as a
If it is
copyright.
possible, not that you're monetizing your creative output, but if it is possible to monetize any form of your creative output, it is also copyrightable and immediately copyrighted by the act of your creation.
Yep. Now,
It's
having
something to be aware of, because it means you're generating rights, which means that the law is immediately involved. Okay? And which side of the law you're on as the content creator, you're automatically, the law is on your side until you start giving or signing or allowing your rights to dissolve. You start off as the king of the hill in your copyright holding retention. You start off that way. And they only can take it away from you if you allow them to, through contracts and terms of service, terms agreements, contract, and so on. So you just want to be consciously aware of the fact that you're the automatic rights holders for every kind of derivation of your content.
And always be mindful of good conduct clauses. This is one of the main ways that copyright is stolen, because this is an amorphous term. And a lot of things can be argued as not good conduct. And when you are selling your rights, you are often giving people management over your copyright for a set term of time. They will often slip good conduct clauses into this, where they can either drop you and never talk to you again like you never existed, or like the family did to Britney Spears, say, oh no, they can't be trusted with this. They have proven they cannot be trusted with this. We are going to take over from now on. That is how Paramount came to own Star Trek, for example. When Gene Roddenberry died, his will was very clear. Everything went to his wife at the time, Majel Barrett Roddenberry. Paramount, on behalf of his first wife, took them to court and basically said, this show ruined our marriage. If he had not met her on the set of the show and had an affair with her on the set of the original show, our marriage would still be together today, and we would be happy, and all would be well, and those rights would have been mine. And they were able to argue in a court of law that what this man wanted to do with his own copyrights did not matter, because the woman he gave it to was the woman he had an affair with for his first wife when he originally created it. So Paramount very kindly offered to hold the copyrights in trust, because there was only one child produced from any of these marriages, and that would be Rod. So they would very kindly manage the rights on Rod's behalf in perpetuity until such time as a court felt that someone else should manage them. Contact clauses are very important.
There is a reason in my divorce that I made it very clear I want to retain all IP for perpetuity, with that my soon-to-be ex-husband could make no claims on it. I had to make this very clear multiple times to my lawyers because of such things. People underestimate the value of IP until it's valuable.
And you never know if or when your content will be valuable. I mean, we talk about H.P. Lovecraft a lot for good and bad reasons. Nobody knew when he was alive that his content would ever be valuable. He was a pulp author who never really made an income off of it that very few people cared about. In his will, he gave all of his copyrights to August Derleth. August Derleth, seeing how much he loved those stories, created Arkham House Publishing to keep those books in print, and thus made them valuable. And then lost all of it because he forgot to file a piece of paper in 1970.
I mean, and to see another example right now is Warner Brothers trying to wrest control of the Harry Potter IP from Gilbreth over, like, you're ruining this property, you're making it less valuable. by everything you do.
Who, by the way, I did not notice this until somebody pointed it out to me recently, has the weirdest writing credit on the Secrets of Dumbledore that I've ever seen. Her writing credit is based on a screenplay by, because they had to bring in other people to rewrite it.
Mm-hmm.
I have never in my life seen based on a screenplay by for
No,
a
I've
major
seen
motion
based on a
picture.
story. That's what I'd see most often, but not based on a screenplay.
Because her contract requires her to be credited as a screenwriter. So she is, but she's not the screenwriter who wrote the script that they ended up using, which I hear is still terribly bad. But so just so you understand this, just one last thing on copyright. The difference between filing for copyright and using your God-given copyright that the courts have and the law has decided is made the moment you click save is if you have the piece of paper, you can get your attorney's fees returned to you as a part of a settlement. So if you do go to court, you are unlikely to get your attorney's fees paid by the person who stole your copyright if you don't have the sheet of paper, because the law is literally written that way.
I got to be honest, I really think every writer needs, anybody who, well, really any creative, if possible, really needs at least 1 or 2 working printers. Because the law values printed work more than digital.
Which is why telegrams still exist and are still in usage.
And I know that everybody's like, but printer's so old and the ink dries. And I get it. I really do get it. But when we are talking about legalities, when we're talking about courts, they value the physical printed work, which is why I actually date all my notebooks. They value that over what I do on the laptop or in the cloud. So it is something to keep track of, to think about in your mind of like, am I occasionally printing out my stuff? It's a good idea. So also always date your work. Like my father used to say, always at least do the month and the year. The day itself usually doesn't really matter, but just, put, like, for instance, 05/22, May 2022. Just put it every once in a while on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter if it has anything to do with what you've written. It's a way to keep track of the time in that notebook, should it ever come up in court.
So the reason I went off on this tangent is, one, you need to understand what you're giving up, because you may think, oh, it would be fun to read this on my live stream, or it may be fun to make a podcast out of this as bonus content. And that may be true. You may want to do that. But it is important to know that you are burning sellable rights in doing that. And just asking yourself, do you feel that it's worth it to do that? And for most of us, especially indie authors, the answer is going to be yes, because if you want that full cast, you're going to have to pay for its production anyway. So it's going to be unlikely that somebody else will volunteer to pay for that. But this is also a really fun way to Mad Lib your way to figuring out what other kinds of bonus content can you make. Start just adding random words before or after the word derivative. So, like I said, you have a comic book derivative right. You have a film adaptation right. You have a television adaptation right.
As all discussed by Kevin Smith in Jay and Silent Bob.
Yes.
You also have a motion picture right. And the reason these three are different is the motion picture covers both television and movie, because anything that is video related is covered under that one. So it's kind of important to know the difference there. But anything that you can think of, do you have a bookmark derivative right? Yeah, technically you have a bookmark delivery right. Do you have a crossword puzzle delivery derivative right? Yes, you do. That is actually a right you can sell to people, and they can pay money for it. You can use this Mad Lib of just look around the room randomly at a thing that you have. Do you have puzzle derivative rights? Yes, you do.
Oh, here's one I learned recently that's been fascinating. I've always wondered, and it's mostly been brought up because of NFTs. You can sell reproduction rights without selling the original. So someone can own the Mona Lisa without owning the rights to reproduce the image of the Mona Lisa.
Yep.
Those are two separate rights.
If you want to understand the complexity of modern copyright, NFTs are a great place to look at this because most people do not understand what they are selling. And even worse, most people don't understand what they're buying. So again, I highly recommend Line Goes Up by Foldable Ideas, Dan's wonderful video explaining in grotesque detail. It's like a 2.5-hour video. Everything you need to know about what an NFT is. And Legal Eagle recently did a video about them as well, because this is really an argument about understanding your rights, what you have, what you're selling, what a contract is, and how they actually function in law. Because, well, I'm not going to get into the whole, like, are they Ponzi schemes? Yes, almost all NFTs are Ponzi schemes. That's just what they are.
Yes.
But are they actually selling anything? The Legal Eagle video where he sits down and tries to apply contract law to the quote-unquote contract in an NFT.
Smart contract.
Is fascinating. And really, I think, instructive to anyone who is a creative in understanding how your rights actually work, function, and are executed.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked it for that part because almost no one ever talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because breaking it down into those bare bones, like, no, this is literally what it is. We're going to do Law School 101, ... Because anytime you create any work, you are using a right. And that's true with all of the bonus content that we're talking about here. But you also have anthology rights. So all of the stuff that I'm making for World Anvil, it has its own intrinsic copyright the moment I write it out and post it over there. But there's also the anthology rights should I decide to make my own Worlds of the Federation style book, where I collect all of those up and have them printed, or if another company wants to do that on my behalf because the project became popular enough. I have an anthology right to that has not been used. So in understanding this, you start seeing where the value is in the content that you're making, how you want to utilize that content, and which rights you want to burn for advertising. Do I care if I ever sell the first crossword puzzle rights to my story? I don't think there's a lot of money there. I don't think that I'm going to be upset if, I burn that right. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with that. As opposed to, do I want to sit around with my friends and make a really like low budget D-movie version of my book as a YouTube video? You're burning your first motion picture rights and your first, depending on the length of it, television or film rights on that project, and are going to literally make it harder to sell, because the only thing you can sell now are the second rights, and most studios don't want that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this diversion here into copyright, because with the hunger to make content that is out there right now with Netflix and Amazon and everyone and their cousin buying, Roku is making TV shows now, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Well, mostly right now, they've just bought all of Quibi's, but they are starting to make 1 or 2 shows.
I know they're making that Weird Al biopic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there are a lot of places out there looking for things to be adapted. So making sure that you're not accidentally burning those bridges ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
That is an important thing to understand and to know. But most of us are, since paralysis is the main demon that holds us writers back, hopefully what you're taking away from this is most of the rights that you will be burning for all of this bonus content is rights that you would probably never sell in the first place. Right?
Mm-hmm. I can almost hear it through the internets.
You poor little Austin fails. There, did you hear that?
Because great series of books. That show, I mean, it has Paul Blackthorne in it, and he's kind of Paul Blackthorne. What that has to do with the books, I have no idea. Other than the names. But yeah, you got to be careful to not accidentally do that to yourself. Because we are living in one of the few days and ages where that is possible. Because if you were to do a live stream and say, have you and your friends read characters, different characters and narration, that's technically audio, but because if you're streaming the video of it, you may have also just used your serialization rights, your video serialization rights, or your television rights to do that. Depending on how much of a stickler the industry wants to be. And trust me, when it comes to copyrights, they're like a really, really hateful misogynist in the 70s. They want those first rights.
I don't know. I mean, like, if you look at Douglas Adams, they were happy to make more derivative works. Call it by the same Hitchhiker's Guide name. And just keep rolling. Where there's a will, there's a way.
But no, every version changed.
Every version was drastically different. So it's just one of those of, do not expect anyone to do a perfect adaptation.
Yes.
But also, frankly, they're probably not going to do a perfect adaptation anyway, because you're not going to be the showrunner. And the showrunner's got their own idea, whether they want to do Wild West in space, and you're like, but we don't have Wild West in my story. It doesn't matter. We're doing it now. Or they want to do a murder mystery, and your story is clearly not a murder mystery, but that's what the showrunner wanted to do. So now it's going to be your story overlaid onto a murder mystery. Like, so it's just one of those of, sure, be aware of it, be aware of what you're doing, but at a certain point, don't talk yourself out of sharing your work. Because at a certain point, why would anyone care or want to buy your work if they don't even know it exists?
And just know they'll probably just negotiate a little bit more for you have to take down these videos.
Yeah, that's what they're going to actually ask for. That's what the lawyers are going to ask for. And you're going to be like, well, I'm going to need to be paid to take down those videos.
Which is why you need to know your rights. Also, I'm really curious how the success of Heartstopper is going to affect who gets to be showrunner on adaptations. Because the person who wrote the book that is based on somehow finagled in their contract the ability to be the showrunner for that show. Oh. And how that happened, I do not know.
You hire a good enough lawyer to negotiate for you. Apparently, you can have the moon.
And it's one of the most popular shows that Netflix has made in a very long time because it stayed very true to the source material, down to some of the most iconic scenes from the comic are recreated shot for shot in the show in just such a beautiful way. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects adaptation rights going forward, because that's how it can really work on the one hand. And then there's the whole 50 Shades saga on the other, who did not have those rights, but she kept showing up to the film shoot anyway.
That's true. Like, it's all negotiable.
Yep.
It's all
the story of a life of creative. It's all negotiable.
Remember, contracts are just a good starting place for negotiation.
It's a good starting conversation. It's not the ending conversation. Any lawyer who's worth their salt will tell you that. So, nothing is written in stone, not even a contract.
So the best place to start for all of this, when you're trying to figure out what you want to make, is try to find the professional thing like it and see what they have made. Are you writing a space opera? What has Star Trek and Star Wars done that you could do something like that? That you want to do something like that? That you could repackage your world building to do something like that? Do you know how many people buy and read the tech manuals to find out what's on each deck of the ship? Did you write out what happens on each deck of your ship so that you know it? So that you have it for reference?
The lies of tech manuals.
All I gotta say is Galaxy Quest. Anyway.
No. Here's the line to, like, if you want to get at any Star Trek fanboy. Tell me about the Oberth class.
Oh, violence. You
so much about
violence.
How do you get to engineering? Tell me.
Don't you got to swim?
No. Oberth is the one where the saucer upper section is not connected to the lower, and they can't decide how thick or thin those pylons are, because it seems like they're only as wide as a person, so you'd have to literally slide down like a slide.
You not teleport? Isn't that you just teleport?
But there's no way a turbo elevator or whatever is going to work in this system. Also, there's floors on it somehow. It's truly what is this?
I just yeet out of this.
But this is all stuff that you probably figured out while you were working on your story so that you can be consistent about it because you do the world building, right? Right? See my podcast, Myth Weaving, for more information on that.
Don't worry, we don't call out without solutions.
Yeah, make sure that you're doing... But if you're doing all of that world building, you have that resource to hand. My favorite thing to do is to make fake historical documents. I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I'm like this. But when I
know you make me tired every time you talk about this. Where I'm like,
it's a thing that I like doing. So, like, I have literally written out in the best mirror of the language of the time various contracts and treaties and letters between historical figures for my settings. Why? I don't know. It's a thing I enjoy doing. If you enjoy doing weird things, share them with people. My entire Dragons of Night series started off of a really idea that I wrote down in one of my journals that I then made a fake magazine article and cover story for. And I made the cover of the magazine. I wrote the article. I formatted it like it would look in the magazine because I don't know. I have problems. It's very well
literally
known.
I'm feeling the exhaustion roll over me as you discuss all these steps of
but
my life force is draining.
Want to see this magazine?
Yes,
I would read it. It's true. I would read it. I admit it. Yes.
This was something that I just did for myself because I started thinking about this. A couple character names came into my mind, and just this hilarious idea of somebody interviewing a famous dragon was just like, okay, what would this look like? And I wrote it. And is it good? No, but it was entertaining and it was fun, and it has spawned at this point several books and a whole extended universe of stories that I've written over the years. But it's there, it exists. Why not share that to people that would be interested in it? That was my hook into the setting. Who knows whose hook into the setting that will be?
Mm-hmm.
We all do. Whether you have the same weird idiosyncrasies that I do, let's face it, we all do weird things when we're coming up with the ideas for our stories, whether they are strange notes in a journal, odd drawings. I know so many writers that do these weird sketches and they're like, this is the novel. And they show them to me like I'm supposed to be able to decode this master plan that's this weird circle with 5 lines in weird directions on it. Okay, sure, that's the novel. Then they come back to you with the novel, you read the novel, and they're like, did you see it? It was all in that picture. Like, no. And then they bring the picture out again and explain it to you in excruciating detail, and you're like, oh God, I do see it. No, what have you done to me? Stop showing the Matrix. Your fans will want you to do that to them too, if you're that weird person.
Can I do an awkward segue then for that?
Come on. Segue.
And that brings us to playlists.
Yeah.
Something you didn't know your fans wanted and you might need. And we've talked about this before.
We talk about it all the time, actually. A couple times a year we bring up, share your music, share your playlist.
Of setting the mood. Tell me, songs that your particular characters listen to. There's a lot of different kinds of playlists you can make. You could make movie playlists. That's one of your characters' favorite sets of movies to watch. But one, it helps you get into the mind of these characters as you write them. But then for your readers later on and your fans, it helps them better understand these characters. There's a lot of stuff left unsaid, and this helps explain things on a more emotional level.
And the most amazing thing is we now know that they're legal. You can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
which helps a lot.
Well, with the death of the CD, movie studios are not getting the soundtrack license that they were buying to actually put out official soundtracks as much anymore. And so, because a lot of the music that they are licensing are songs that existed on previous albums, they're making playlists as the substitute for the soundtrack, which is taking a revenue stream away from the artists that used to get paid for that to be included on the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's selling those soundtracks anymore for the most part, with the exception of like the Black Panther soundtrack, where they literally recorded all new music, right? Those are still coming out in collections.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, they're putting out soundtracks. A couple movie studios were sued over this, and so far every lawsuit has been laughed out of court, because the question always comes back: how is the movie studio making money off this? Because there's a quirk in copyright that, while is not necessarily a defense, and do not think that it is hard to break somebody's copyright if you're not A, stealing money from them, and B, making money yourself. These two things need to be there in some way, shape, or form. And if you're pointing people to other people's music to listen to it, where they are making the monies, you're not taking money from them. Everything comes back to copyright.
Yep.
Which is why they're now trying to come at it from the likeness rights thing. It's anyway.
But yeah, like, don't forget to make playlists. Make them available. You'd be surprised where you get your audience, because playlists are a lot like memes. They are a way also for your audience to find each other.
Yeah.
If you like this playlist, maybe I'll also like this story. Hey, why don't you check this out? Here's a cool playlist. And then they're like, what's this playlist for? I'm like, well, it's for this book. They may then be more interested. Like, it is another way of actually also driving curiosity about the original story.
I do believe it costs, I think, $5, but there is an app called SongShift that I believe it's available for both Android and iOS. But I know there are versions of this that you can, as long as you have an account with the various music streaming apps, you can have it duplicate your playlists on them. So you can use this to automatically, no matter which one you use, create those playlists over on Apple Music, Pandora, Deezer, any of the other places that have playlists, some of which do have free accounts that you can have access to, and still use this app to do that. But that way you can just maintain the playlist on the one music service that you use and have it on all of the other ones that you don't, or as many of the other ones as you don't, that allow for that free access.
SongShift?
Yes.
It doesn't look like it's on Android.
Oh. It was for a while. But I know there are other apps that are like that will let you duplicate your playlist.
Yeah, there's several. Like, if you type in SongShift into Google apps, it will recommend all these others that are the playlist transfer apps.
Because that is a big thing, is making sure that you're on all the platforms that your people might be on. That's an amazing idea.
But yeah, it is another way to think, though, about how to get people interested in your stories. It's said that's how I found the band Blue October, and legit cried when their new album came out, because it was all about how the lead singer was happy, and I was just so proud of him. And the last one, really, I think of that, truly has its own little subject to talk about. We've joked about before, is lyrical. Speaking of songs, of creating original lyrical stuff or poems, riddles, limericks, and of course, filking music.
My sweet, sweet dandelions. Yeah.
Parody music.
I have learned that I still have one form of shame, and that is I cannot give in to the levels of cringe that exist on the internet when I see the vast amount of parody songs that people have willfully shown their faces on, with them performing them on the interwebs. I'm not going to name the names of the people that I'm thinking of because, well, they're garbage people that don't deserve to be promoted. But the fact that they're making and putting their face to, oh dear God, you're letting people know that that's actually you. You did that. And this is the one piece of shame that I still have, is that I cannot produce the sheer volumes of cringe that would probably actually be good for my brain.
That's what I was actually going to recommend. Okay, so like limericks. So let me explain. Here's the basic idea. Because I remember, I think it was either my 3rd or 4th grade teacher explaining to all of us kids how to write limericks. And then immediately regretting it. But so you have, there once was a person, and you're going to have an adjective before. Old, young, one-legged, I don't know. They don't have to be a person, they could be a cat. There once was a one-legged cat from Nantucket. The town is going to be something that rhymes. So you got to keep that in mind. So it might be like, there once was a one-eyed cat from Itabina who, and then you're going to have something they did, and it has got to rhyme with Itabina, or it's got to rhyme with the town. The town does not have to be real. You could make this up, okay? And you just follow the basic the basic rhythm. With drinking games and filking music, it's very easy if you just go look up old drinking songs.
Yep.
Okay. And like you just parody it. Okay. There are some truly wonderful folk songs, like some of y'all may remember, all these terrible, like old English folk songs that my mother taught me as a little child and had me sing for her amusement, because she just thought it was hilarious to hear a 5-year-old singing, "Here's to the girl who steals a kiss and runs to tell her mother. She's a foolish, foolish lass. She's a foolish, foolish lass. She's a foolish, foolish lass. For she'll not get another." And so on. My mother thought it was hilarious, but these songs are old as the hills, y'all. And you just parody it. You just like change a couple of like the basic premise or something, and you follow your rhythm. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. You do not have to be like an untapped songwriter. You just parody the lyrics. You stick to these old melodies. These are very old melodies. The melodies are usually much older than the songs when they first showed up in print. Like that song, was it Three Jolly Coachmen? Originally, I think first time in print in the late 1600s, it's actually Three Jolly Soldiers. And then it was Three Jolly Sailors. And then it finally was Three Jolly Coachmen, or Three Jolly Carriagemen. And that was like the late 1600s, early 1700s. It is old as the hills, y'all. But the melody, on the other hand, I think is like what, from the 1300s or something?
I've got a link that I'll post up specifically of just medieval not poems, but these song melodies, and where they're actually, who's credited with them. So you can see of like
we used to learn, there is a prayer that our church used to teach little children to sing, and it was based on an old English melody. I think the melody is early one morning, I saw a maiden singing, da 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 da. You just take an old folk melody and you change the lyrics, and suddenly you have a new song. And frankly, it's not that hard to just switch in lyrics, and there you go. And it does not need to be original. Calm down. It just is something you did. It's a parody. Like, yes, this is a Jewish tradition. And so I'm here to tell you what my mother told me. This is how you pass the time. This is how we used to pass time for cable. It keeps you sane. When you're waiting for the roof to be blown off by the storm, let's all sit here and think of parody songs. You know, like hence where my song Peeing in the Dark originally came from, that I wrote as a child. Peeing in the dark, peeing in the dark. We shall go a peeing, peeing in the dark. And that is what I sing when I'm scared, but I need to go pee in the dark.
I mean, the latest SNL one has, you know, a very obvious, you know, great showing of like what does a parody look like of a song called, you know, You Forgot About Lorne.
Yep.
And like this is what a real parody should look like.
Yeah.
And a lot of folk songbooks use popular songs, and they just list to the tune of at the top of it, to the tune of this popular song by this popular act, and then the lyrics follow. Because if you know the song, you'll easily be able to figure out how the words fit over the rhythm of it. In fact, the only folk song that I am aware of to any of my songs was based off of a Nirvana song, which oddly enough really fit that book.
I have forever thought about writing a parody song from a 90s song called Glycerine about Listerine mouthwash.
He has been writing this song forever. I've had to listen to it.
I was always surprised Weird Al did not do such an obvious song.
Maybe that's why.
And just remember, when it comes to filk, especially if you're not part of the community that generates this, what is actually lauded in this community is not necessarily the talent of the singer or the brilliance. It's, did it make you laugh? At what point did you go, oh my God, really?
It's supposed to be amusing. It's
yeah.
amusing. It's, as my mother said, before we had cable, we had parody.
Bob Kanefsky wrote a wonderful song called Acts of Parody, which is about, it's a duology. The two songs on that album, the album's called Roundworms. They go back hand in hand. It's Acts of Parody and Double Entendre. And they're about how we work so hard to create these masterpieces of art. And I know what you're going to do. You're going to write a dirty song where somebody's doing something dirty to somebody else using my characters, because of course you are. I see you over there. It's so funny because yes, of course we're going to do this. Do you not know? Do you not know Fandom?
Wasn't Yankee Doodle originally a parody meant to mock?
Yep.
You know, Yankees, you know, Americans, newly minted Americans, and they newly minted Americans loved it and started singing it proud, to which the Europeans were like, no, you're not supposed to enjoy the song. And it's like, too late. We have immortalized it. But Yankee Doodle, the melody for it, that is not originally the song that was put to that melody. It was a parody meant to shame Americans, and instead Americans were like, yes, we are fantastic.
And we have a very good tradition of that. I mean, our own national anthem is to the tune of To Anacreon in Heaven.
Oh,
which, if you are not familiar with the lyrics of To Anacreon from Heaven, that should be our national anthem. I'm just saying, because oh, are we a country that likes to go out and get drunk but sing to the heavens that, hey, we're still holy? Yes, we are. We are definitely those people.
I think everybody should have a turn at making fun little parody songs. And like, even how could you incorporate it into your stories? If partly for the exercise and partly so they're being more fun and playful with their own stories and not too serious. Because we have fun with play. We don't have fun with serious.
Which brings us back to the don't make it precious. Don't be precious. Yeah, I always get weirded out when people are nervous to do this, because again, I grew up, this was a game that my friends and I played with each other, and it was not because somebody taught it to us. We were all Weird Al Yankovic fans.
Yep.
So we would just be like playing with our Transformer toys, and a song would come on the radio, and we would just start making that song about whatever we were playing with the toys about, because funny. And the whole thing was, can you make your friend laugh? Can you get that high C to come out their nose because you said the inappropriate thing at just the right moment when they were drinking to make it happen. It's a fun game. Everyone should participate. I don't care if you're about your age. Just do it. It's fun.
Yeah, you just take any song you're familiar with that you know the words to, because it's easier to make alternative lyrics to songs you're already familiar with the lyrics. You
And
can just
also,
do it for any of it.
don't worry about it, but it's too serious. I can't do anything like that. As someone just pointed out, like if you can do it off of, Twilight, you can do anything.
We
Twilight is so self-serious.
We talked about it last time. We talked about Filk, but just look up Mal's song. Just search Mal's song. That is a very serious Filk song that takes the idea of the war and everything that they went through very seriously, and it's touching and it's beautiful. But also, you can just search Torchwood Filk if you're not afraid of being offended, if you're not easily offended. Because, there are so many songs from Yanto's point of view that are hilarious and really, really funny, even though the video that's generally played in these videos is Yanto dying, because, of course, that's the video that they picked in the background. This is the song Yanto sang to Jack as he was dying.
Like, to me, that was the real problem I had with Torchwood, was Yanto was one of the best characters.
He was.
And he killed him off so early. It's like,
Yep.
Why?
It's rude.
But I'm just saying, that's how you could take... Fandom very much took a very serious character from a very serious show and literally setting it in the most serious thing, like when he's literally dying.
I mean, Torchwood is the grim dark of the Doctor Who universe.
Yes. In every possible way.
So there's I can't remember that Welsh poet, "Do not go gentle in that good night." You remember?
Yes.
Old age should rage against the dying of the light. It's like, it's not Bob Dylan. Dylan Thomas. Is it Dylan Thomas?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Mom took this very, serious, sad poem written by Dylan Thomas about the dying of his father. And she wrote, "Sometimes I hear the pork chops calling. Sometimes I hear the roasts. They call in lovely, soothing tones. They call in raucous boasts." People loved the poem to the point she had to finish it against her will. All about meat at the butcher shop. Okay. People loved it. It was the English department at Ole Miss that absolutely demanded, "You have to finish this. We want to teach our English students about Dylan Thomas, and we think that if we taught them this first, that would be a way in to teaching about Dylan Thomas."
Also explaining what the heck parody is, because apparently they were having problems.
They were having some real problems explaining parody. And so here's a great example. And that it was used, I'm told at least it was used for several years in the curriculum. But look, SNL exists because the Supreme Court, I know they're not popular right now, but the Supreme Court defended parody and satire, not just satire.
Yep.
In America, parody is protected as a creative work. It's a derivative work, absolutely, but it is a creative work, and it is valued. I mean, let's be honest, to be perfectly frank with you, America, the road to America becoming a country and staying a country, as in the sequel, 1812, had a lot to do with parody and political cartoons. This was actually very powerful in the political movement, both to establish a country and then to maintain a country against the sequel. And this is a major part of the American creative works. So again, I really would like to encourage everybody to give it a try if you've never given it a try before, or if you haven't parodied anything in more than 5 years. I would like to encourage you to just put on that hat and exercise that muscle again. You may find you like it. you may find it super fun. It is a serious, important part of being American is parody. It's very important. And also, it is helpful to not take things super serious. I mean, I have no idea if Dylan Thomas would have been mad at my mother's meat themed poem that was a parody of his, very super serious. However, it has caused many people who have read her original parody poem to then read the works of Dylan Thomas because they were never really interested in the poet before and like it and like his works, and this was a gateway in. That is one of the powerful things about parody. You parodying, say, pub songs, poems, limericks, whatever, may be a way in for readers into your creative works. Think about that.
And if you don't know how to take what you see as a serious topic and add this level of fun to it, may I invite you into the queer community and to come and hang out with us. The first thing that comes to mind in here is Colton Ford's wonderful album Under the Covers, where it's nothing but cover songs that are made into like club dance tracks that were never intended to be. His version of Losing My Religion is one of my favorite things ever. If you've never thought, I need to dance until I almost pass out to Losing My Religion, check out his version of that. His version of Lithium will just leave you in stitches because, yes, this is what it feels like to be going slightly mad, but also, let's just dance, it'll be fine. It's nothing but torch songs about like the worst breakups or worst things that could happen to you, but with a really banging backbeat and just that constant thumpa, 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 thumpa. Like you just want to dance to it. Because again, what I was talking about earlier with embracing the darkness, you can have so much fun with the darkness. She's painful, but she's kind of like that frenemy that once you're like acquainted with her, you can make her giggle just a little bit. And it's something that we have been doing a lot. And like if his version of Losing My Religion is one of my favorite things to play to people when they're like, you can't make a serious topic fun, because that is one of my favorite breakup songs of all time. And the way that Michael Stipe sings it is a heart-wrenching song. And then you hear Colton Ford's and you're just like, yeah, okay, we're broken up now. Huh? Well, I never really believed anyway. Like, he didn't change any of the words, but you just get this feeling of like, I just didn't really care. It's fine. It's fine. Hey, sweetie. Like just it. Because you can have fun with pretty much anything if you try hard enough.
Agreed. Does anyone have final thoughts? Anything else their chest may be burdened with?
I feel like I should say what I normally say. Have fun, break things, do the violence.
Bonus content is a good way to also deal with writer's block.
Yes.
Agreed.
Because it lets you see your creative work from a different perspective. And so that's also another way to use it, is when you've got a bit of writer's block, go do some of these bonus contents. And it's ways to have fun with it without having to directly continue working on it. And you may then find yourself inspired again.
Yep. I know one of the things that makes me a little bit different in a lot of the AuthorTube community is I am focused very much on this being a creative business. Because I love the stories that I tell, but also, like, there are things that I want to do that cost money, so it would be nice if the stories could help me make the money so I can do those things with the stories that I want to do with them. So they need to be helping to fund the projects and the things that I'm wanting to do with them. So I find myself very focused on that. This is the best way to build that writing business. You have the difference between seeing yourself as a novelist or somebody that tells stories and somebody who is am I going to use this phrase? Okay, I'll mute the mic if I gag too hard. Creative entrepreneur. Okay, I'm fine. But
chew it back.
I hate that. I hate that word. I hate that word so much. But the difference.
What is it? Bookedpreneur or whatever, Kindlepreneur. I get it.
Yeah, the Kindlepreneur channel. Is not thinking about how much money you can make from that.
Authorpreneur. That's the one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's the one that I actually.
Because it's not about how much you can make from that one book. It's how much that you can make from this creative business, and understanding that if you are wanting to make a living off of this, especially in this day and age, you are not going to make that living solely from writing the books unless you can get yourself a friend and Kennedy Fox the hell out of it. Like, there is a method to just make money off of the books. And that's what the Courtney Project is for. If you have the stamina for that, I highly recommend her channel. She is an inspiration to me because I could not write that fast. I don't care how many people I have on my team. There's no way I could.
Yeah, I'm just not angry enough to write that fast.
But
I got to be raging to just, like a cat, just blah, 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 on the keyboard and just type out.
If you are not going to Kennedy Fox the crap out of this, then you're going to have to find other ways to both monetize and grow your community. So many authors that I talk to are like, I would have a coffee or a Patreon, but I don't know what goes there. This is what goes there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, some of this should be going out into the wild through your general social media to attract people in. But other bits of this is what goes behind that paywall. Are you making, and you can multi-purpose this in so many ways. If you're making those bookmarks, that artwork and stuff can be repurposed to make, I don't know, lock screens for phones. People like lock screens for their phones, especially for the things that they love. If you've already made the artwork.
I never thought I'd be into lock screens until that episode of Sherlock. And then it was like, ooh, lock screen's sexy.
It's a thing that you can do and that you can repurpose this into. This is how you build that business, is figuring out which of these things you want to do and how you want to build them up. For all you know, your wonderful epic fantasy series is just the example campaign in a tabletop role-playing game that will go on and actually be the thing that makes you the money. You don't know unless you're willing to try it. If that's a thing that you want to do, if that's an avenue you want to go down. Maybe you're the next Welcome to Night Vale, and you're going to do that story podcast that to you is just a gateway to get people into your actual books. But maybe it's the thing that takes off. If you're not putting out this content in all the different ways that you can to attract an audience, grow an audience, and find the ways that your audience will give you their hard-earned money to support the projects, you are a hobbyist.
And there's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong.
But I've seen a lot.
If you can get your hobby to pay for itself, that'd be awesome.
There are so many people, though, that call themselves professional writers that are hobbyists because they don't want to do the things that make the money. If you are one of those people that wants to be professional on any level, you need to figure out, how are you going to be doing this? Are you going to be doing what our glorious Laura does and hiring Fiverr artists to make amazing artwork that, yes, is going to be going into that book? But hey, Laura, those interstitial arts that you got, I could see people buying bookmarks with those on them.
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
beautiful. They are astounding, and that can be repurposed in many different.
Or phone covers.
Phone covers. Stickers.
I mean, let's all be honest. We're familiar with, the HP stuff. How many cars have that little triangle, circle, and line on the back window?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple little design, but everyone's got it.
But there's so much stuff that you can do if you're wanting to put in the energy and go out there and do it. So don't be afraid. And remember, if you make a mistake, that's how you learn. That's life. That's business. It's not the end of you. You pivot and go to do something else.
Yep.
In every creative endeavor that you're doing and every business endeavor, you're always looking for the minimum viable product. What is the smallest thing that you can put out in the world? If you cannot turn your book into a tweet, it's going to be really hard for you to sell that book. If you can't turn your book into a meme, it's going to be really hard to sell that book. There has to be a handle for people to grab onto to figure out, hey, I'm actually interested in this.
Sarah Sutton has done an entire series of TikToks and Reels that is just her sitting there sort of emoting from one character's perspective, and then in print it just has, I thought I was in love with my boyfriend till I kissed the football team quarterback at the party and now I don't know. And it's just from a character's perspective of one of the premises of one of her books. She's just
essentially it's book blurbs.
Yeah, it's just these little book blurbs, and it's just one or two sentences, and her just going, like that's just it. Like she's not wearing a costume or nothing.
Yeah, these videos have nothing to do with what's written.
Nothing, but they are helping generate interest and content. It is bonus content, let's be perfectly honest. And it is offering potential readers a way into her stories without essentially her just going, hi, I am advertising my book. Hello, I am a shouty woman.
And once you convince somebody, hey, I can entertain you on Twitter, I can entertain you on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever platform it is, then you go, oh, by the way, did you know I have a book? They're much more likely to go, well, you were entertaining on TikTok, you were entertaining on YouTube, maybe I should check that book out. And that's really what we're talking about here, is finding ways to convince people, oh no, I can entertain you and take you away from the dreariness of your life for a little bit. Trust me. Because that's the basic contract every writer makes with their reader.
Laura, you got any final thoughts? Eat your vegetables.
I think my final thought is mostly, this is absolutely doable for you. Look, I realize that a lot of people are like, no, but Glory, you're special and I'm not. And it's like, no, you have no idea how mediocre I actually am unless you've watched me try to play a new game on Twitch. And then you all get to find out how bad I actually am at things until I practice. And I finally get the hang of it. Like I'm essentially a slow learner. And so I'm here to tell you, if I can do it, you can do it. Please do not get into your own head and talk yourself out of things like learning how to just find one of these bonus content. One, just any one. We've got a huge list of them. One thing and try it out. Whether it's like literally the most simple one probably would be the word search one and just plug in a whole bunch of names, setting names, geographic names in your story, something like that. Essentially glossary words. And make that, try it out and see what you think, and then share it and see maybe what's the reaction. Maybe you get no reaction. Maybe you get a few people interested. Maybe some people are like, thanks, I had kind of fun just doing this for a little bit. Just try something out so then you know that you know how to do it, and then try another thing and see, because I really think people might find this as a nice way to stay inspired when they've got the writing doldrums. You know that one. When you're in the middle of a slog in your story. It's not that the story itself is boring. It's just you would rather be outside in the lovely weather. Sometimes doing the bonus content instead is a way to kind of get re-energized and re-inspired to keep working on the actual writing out of each scene. Instead of thinking about how you would rather be at the beach. Or, the lake, or whatever fun thing that you would rather be doing, or just somebody feeding you, whatever, than doing what you're doing. I think this might be a way into essentially staying motivated. And you might find that you have fun. Oh, bonus for the writer. So that's all. It's just, my final thought is just give it a try. Give something new a try. See what you think. Report back. That's all. All right. So, next week, is our final week of this season. And it's writing games and ask us anything. And since no one has sent a single question in, I guess we're just doing writing games. What are writing games, Glory? You'll have to come. This is actually technically another one of Tom's pitches.
You know, we're all just going to show up and be here going, so why are you so awesome? The whole time. Right?
I'd like to see you try. Anyway.
Challenge accepted.
We're putting the pizza demon for the computer desk question. Oh, so cute. Yes, I'd like to see you try. You all talk big, but I'd like to see you walk the walk. So what I'm bringing is all of my elementary school writing games that I play with kids because most children, for some reason, think they hate writing until they write with me. And that is because words are a game for you to master and own. Words are your servants to do as you wish, to entrance other people. You can manipulate people's feelings with words. It always talked all my 8-year-olds into writing. I figured it would work for adults too. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Nobody's going to talk? Okay, that's fine. So that's what we're going to do on May 30th. Be sure to come in and watch this wildfire of an episode. As we finish the season out, do we have another show season planned for June and July? Nothing on paper. I have no idea what we're going to do. I am going to have to tie Tom down to the couch and make him talk to me about this thing that neither of us want to talk about what are we going to do in June and July. If anybody has any input into that, now's a great time to hey, talk about that. You could tell us in Discord. You could tell us in the community page on this YouTube channel. You could tell us anywhere. Instagram, find us. All the links are down below in the doobie-doobie-doob. Come join the community. It's a wild ride.
Everything is a wild ride.
And with that, I think that we shall wave you all out. And some of you I shall meet later in the voice chat in the Unicorn Council Discord server in the clubhouse. So, bye-bye, everybody. Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Mwah.
Bye-bye.
See you later, my darlings.